All right, welcome in everyone. Just double checking, making sure sound is good. Yeah, should be able to hear me, so we should be good to go. JC, what is up, my man? We are going to be doing again another workshop. It's going to be a continuation of what we did last week, just basically finishing up the 2025 federal benefit stuff. Um, this is going to be something that I can tell is going to be redone again. So we're doing this now, but I can already see that with the possible changes, incoming new VA secretary, the possibility of what can we say, different budgetary issues happening. There's going to be a couple of issues ongoing with this future process, so it's just basically making sure that we are aware of these are the benefits that are currently in place. This is what we currently have. This is what's in place right now for veterans, spouses, dependents, and all that stuff. These are the programs that are still there. Most of these programs have been untouched due to this whole federal hiring freeze, the federal just inquiry, all that stuff, them checking into everything. All of this stuff is being changed, is being monitored. We are paying attention to it to make sure that we are aware of all these possible changes or upcoming changes. The CFR is still going to be changed. We still don't have adequate information as to the specific date as when it's going to happen. But if you ever check the CFR, it always tells you when it was last up to date, and it'll tell you what the previous version was. So as of right now, it was changed on the 30th of this past month. So January 30th was the last time that uh, the Code of Federal Regulations was changed. So that's the last time it was changed. So that's something for people to make sure to keep in mind. The last time it was changed was the 30th, 2025. And mind you, some of these changes are minor. Some of these are major. Most of the time, it's like little minor ones. So let's say you are removing a specific diagnostic code, or you are combining diagnostic codes because you don't feel that the same thing is in there. That's the changes usually that happen, or it's the major changes that are implemented, planning to happen with the mental health awareness ratings, the digest not the digestive, that was already done. No, no, tell your mom. Well, there you go. One kid trying to interfere in the thing. Say that. Hello. Can you close the door, please? Got the kid tuning in. Um, but yeah. So those are the things that usually happen when it comes to the Code of Federal Regulation changing. It differs what happens. Another point that I wanted to make just as an announcement is also that on our website we have fixed up what the Nexus letter is supposed to look like. So if you haven't tuned in yet, you haven't checked in, you can check in on our Vetawarenessproject.com website. It has a Nexus letter template. It is not a Nexus letter that is just going to literally just give you what you need. It is basically a template so that way when you are going to your medical provider or you're going to your doctor, you are able to actually give them a document and be like, hey, this is the format of what I need for my disability rating, or this is what I need to have service connection for my disability claim that I am putting in with the VA. So basically just making sure that people have the visual so that way, and it's also a downloadable file. So if you want to download the file, you can just go onto the website, click download. It's on our Google Drive for the Vet Awareness Project. You check it through there. You can download the template of the Nexus letter. The Nexus letter can now be taken to your private doctor or whatever entity you're going to be seeing, so that way they have a better understanding of what it is. The biggest issue we have most of the time when it comes to Nexus letters and veterans dealing with them is the fact that nobody knows what it looks like. Nobody knows what the template is. A lot of veterans go to a lot of veterans will go to a doctor or their medical provider and be like, hey, I need a Nexus letter. If your medical provider has no idea what the hell you're talking about or what it looks like or how it's supposed to be formatted, your Nexus letter may not be as strong as it needs to be. So basically, for veterans, that's a big thing. Just like you need to make sure that your letter has the right information in there, has the right statements in there, covers the correct items, in order for you to be successful. You're not going to be successful if you do not have a nexus letter that actually states what it is that's going on with you, how it connects to you, how is it that you're injured, when did it happen, why is it, or what studies are joining together and basically stating like, hey, you are trying to service connect, let's say, whatever the issue is. It happened here, but now there's investigative and studies being conducted that allow you to connect that. That's the stuff that you need to make sure that your medical provider has, because then that's the information that allows you to service connect things. Because if you have that information, it's easier to connect it because now your provider knows what he's supposed to write or knows what the justification is. Most veterans don't understand that even with a nexus letter can be used if your doctor, like if your private doctor diagnoses you with something or you've been diagnosed with something, right? And the CMP examiner or the VA examiner basically gives you a specific detail of like, hey, this is what I diagnosed him with and this is the reason why. If that CMP examiner is incorrect or does not have a value into your claim, but your private doctor can explain as to why the diagnosis that they gave you was incorrect and why it's this or why it's that, that's something you can also put in there. Because you got to remember, most of the time with the CMP exams, you are going to be submitted or sent to someone that knows what that is about. If you have a back issue, most likely that CMP examiner is going to have something to do with backs. Not necessarily the claim where they're going to automatically be like a specialist for your back. And that's something people need to understand. So it's something you need to make sure that when you go to your private doctor, you have that info and it's just like, hey, this is what I'm providing. This is the format of the document that I would need from you to be filled out so that way I can actually have a nexus letter that is actually contributing to my disability claim and connecting my service, making that service connection. Because the biggest issue we have is we don't connect the service connection. The service connection is your biggest problem. It's not nothing else. It's having it service connected. Because once it's service connected from there, you can get injuries, you can get stuff like that, and you can work it up that way, and then you benefit from there. If it gets worse, because most issues worsen, that's something you can claim. That's something you can then file an increase for, where you don't need the extra documentation because it's service connected. Once you have the service connection, it beats the rest of the stuff, because now the VA understands that yes, this happened through the military, so we are going to compensate you or take care of you because of the military. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Otherwise, you're going to go through the struggle or you're going to be denied and stuff like that. A nexus letter is important because you need that in there to make sure to have a service connection. If you don't have a service connection, it doesn't matter what you have. You can have secondaries to secondaries to secondaries. If you don't have that first service connection, it don't matter what secondary you're going for if it's not being able to be connected to what it is you need. So keep that in mind when it comes to these nexus letters, because those are the more important things. Give me a second. I will give you the link to that. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Let me give you the link to where it's at. Copy. So this is gonna be the link provided to you guys. If you're on TikTok, it's easier to watch it on YouTube. Because I can show you the screen and stuff like that. But this is the link basically for a template of a Nexus letter. Like I said, this Nexus letter is not going to be a specific thing. This is something that you want to try to use as a template. Look at what it has. Look at what your contributing information is. Look at your documentation and then connect that to, whatever your disability claim is. If it's back injury, neck injury, sleep apnea, anything of the sort, make sure to use this as a guideline and then fill it out appropriately and plug and play what you have. The ACE exam, that's one that they basically already have the stuff done. You already have it there. It's just there. We're just going to verify kind of thing, I believe. That's what an ACE exam is. They're there because most of the time it's a easier process. It's an easier process with ACE exams. Is basically a quicker way of let's get you through that hoop instead of going through a CMP exam and stuff like that. Because it's basically we already see that you have it. We don't need to contribute more to it. We don't need to try to find more information. Kind of, I guess you could say. It's a more straightforward way of getting a examination done than going through a CMP exam. Because the CMP exam is more like, hey, we need to figure out what it is you're claiming, as compared to an ACE is like, we know what you're claiming, we just got to make sure the documentation is there and you should be good to go. So that's always a good sign when you get the ACE exams. So always take that as a good thing. Don't take it as a bad thing. um when it gets conducted, you just said it got recently done for sleep apnea. Most of the time sleep apnea, like I tell, this is one thing I tell people when it comes to sleep apnea: if you have the ability to tell your provider or your doctor that you would like to do a in resident one, not the at home one, do the one that's in a study, a house facility, or something like that. Do that one. Do not try to do this at home uh thing they got. Don't do that. Don't do the at home one, because I've had plenty of friends that have done the I'm gonna do the at home sleep study, right? They do the at home sleep study, and it doesn't come out that they have that much. What's up, Annette? You said go Eagles. I have that poll there just for people to pick which one they want, who they're going for, Chiefs or Eagles. Um, but yeah, that's the one thing. That was just like, if you're doing a sleep exam, make sure that you are going to a actual sleep study location. Don't do at home that at home one. For me, I got mine. I didn't do the at home one. I had a bunch of friends that I knew had sleep apnea because I saw the symptoms and everything, and I told them to get in, and they got denied. Or basically, when they did the at home study, it didn't show that they actually had a strong case of sleep apnea. And the reason I tell people to go to a actual study is because of the fact that at the study you are going to be like heavily monitored. You are going to have sensors put all over your body. You're going to have your oxygen being taken to see how much oxygen you're inhaling or how much you're pushing out, and all that stuff. Sensors all over. Sometimes they even record while you sleep. So that's information that helps, because for me, that allowed me to know that I had restless leg syndrome. If you're doing it at home, there's nobody watching you. There's no record or film of it. So it's basically what that little monitor does is what affects you. And a lot of times what people don't understand is it's just like when you're going to sleep, you're trying to be as comfortable, as best as comfortable as you can. So if you're going to get comfortable, what are you going to do? You're going to go and you're going to do it that way. You're going to get comfortable. You're going to move around. So you may not have sleep apnea at that bad of a position if you are changing yourself and orienting yourself to sleep in a better manner. Whereas compared to when you do that sleep study, they're recording it. You have all these sensors. So if your breathing goes, that'll change it. If you're like, if you sleep on your side, you may not get sleep apnea as much. But at the same time, when you have the whole setup, it'll show that, hey, you're still not getting adequate breathing or stuff like that, which is a cause of sleep apnea, which causes all that tiredness that you get, which sometimes even leads to chronic fatigue syndrome, because basically your body is not receiving enough oxygen when you are sleeping or resting. So it doesn't allow you, when you go to sleep, to actually recuperate and let your body heal. So if you sleep, like, those are the times like when people can say, hey, I've slept like 10 hours but I'm exhausted. That's because your body wasn't receiving enough energy to it. Are they going to make cuts to sleep apnea percentage? The cuts to the sleep apnea, the thing is, so like what's being proposed, they have proposed items. We are supposed to have a better answer in April. So in April, they are supposed to basically state, because that is the final action date when it comes to the changes to sleep apnea and to tinnitus and stuff like that. That's what they currently have it as. The mental health one was moved to August for the final action date. But like I said, keep in mind, these things have been proposed since 2022, and it's going on 3 years now. We just passed, I think on the 22nd of this month is when we passed the 3 year mark of when they proposed or stated they wanted to make these changes. Nothing has been solidified. It's been stuff that they say is going to happen. but the date of final action keeps on getting pushed and pushed and pushed. Now, with the changes for the mental health, it does look like, and people are saying that there are going to be higher chances of veterans getting higher ratings because of it, because it's being broken down into different structures. I wasn't able to find a document. I was looking for it. Um, but it breaks it down into 4 different categories now in order for your mental health. So they are saying that your mental health chances of getting a higher rating is going to increase with these new changes. But these new changes are now not going to be set till August, because that's the time frame now for the final action date. So when they should have something. Same thing, like I said, tinnitus and sleep apnea, that is supposed to happen in April when we get a action. The action isn't very, it is not solid. It's basically saying this is going to happen. They've been proposing stuff, but then you got to remember, all the CBO was proposing that too much money was being spent. There should be reductions in certain areas, stuff like that. So that's why it's kind of difficult at this time to navigate the stuff. Like I said, look, if you have your disability ratings and you have your all your documentation, file now. We're not certain of what changes may be coming when it comes to our disability ratings, when it comes to our compensation, when it comes to certain benefits and stuff like that. We don't know what is in the works right now, what may be cut, what they may deem as not priority, what they may deem as, hey, we're going to lower the budget on this section, but we're going to raise it in this section. Because we all know everybody wants more CMP exams and everybody wants more community care. But if more money is going set to that, where's the money getting pulled out from other places? So that's the part that most veterans aren't paying attention to. But that's the part we need to start realizing that, hey, we have a certain budget. Within that certain budget is where we take care of all the stuff we take care of. If they're going to start restructuring and changing it, there's going to be losses in certain spots and gains in other spots. But it's not going to be gains all across the board. So when I say that, it's like, hey, if you have your claims, you have your documentation, you have your stuff, go file for your stuff now. Maybe you can file, maybe with these changes, you notice, hey, I can actually get a higher rating because of this, then file for an increase. But if you have your stuff now, file for it now, because the thing is then you at least be grandfathered into that documentation and have it, and you know what's going on. So it's not a surprise to you when that changes. But all right, let's get into the benefits. This is just a continuation of last week. Last week we left off. Oh, that's the website. There we go. That's the Vetawareness website. You got advertisements on there, so if y'all want to click and help out the project, you can click on those ads. Don't have to buy anything. We do have our donation spot where you can donate to the project, or you can go under that and there's like a support page where basically you can check out our Amazon like wish list. We have a wish list. We have our setup. So basically what we use. So if people use those links, we get commission off of that. So basically not selling you anything directly, but there's going to be pages on there that it's just like, if you use it and click for it, it helps to donate to us. So it's certain things, we'll be making a little section where it's just like veteran necessities Amazon link thing. So basically things that I know I use and I know things work that a veteran would be beneficial to have at home or just at the workplace, in the garage, something like that. Stuff like that, or just stuff like that. And also we're going to make a community channel where it's going to be, I would like to make sure that, hey, if you are a veteran and you have a veteran owned business, I want to promote your stuff. Not going to be a charge or anything. If you want to do some extra stuff to promote, that's different. But on the website, it's just going to be like, hey, if you are an entity that is a veteran-owned business, you just got to like send me an email, send me the information of what you got, what you would like to put on there, so that way I can start highlighting it on your state. So each state will have a like a veteran-owned business thing. Remember, it's 50 states, so it's going to take me some time to do all of them, but started the layout of it. That way, it's like, hey, if you reside in a certain state and you're looking to support veteran-owned businesses, that way you have a resource to, hey, this is a veteran-owned business, whatever it may be. You could be a farmer, you could be a mechanic, you could be a electrician, whatever the case may be. If it's veteran-owned, make sure you got good reviews though. If it's bad reviews, I'm not gonna put you on the site. If you got good reviews, good overall like awareness and stuff like that, and other veterans use you and stuff like that, make sure to put it there so I could just highlight it so that way you are recognized within the state as, hey, you provide a service to veterans or you are a veteran entity that has a business. So that way, it's a benefit so that we are helping assist each other and helping promote each other's business so that way we can find a way to be more successful as veterans, but also uniting and helping each other out. So if you have a veteran-owned business that does something, you can go and support a veteran instead of supporting a corporation or something that doesn't assist veterans. Or, hey, a lot of entities and a lot of companies don't have no damn veteran discount. Some have a veteran discount. Some it's only they remember you're a veteran on Veterans Day. Some it's just like, hey, you got discounts throughout the year, stuff like that. So it depends on how you do it, but that's something you got to look at. Yeah, that's all it is, George. It's just basically because the thing is that's the one thing with veterans is just like we do our time in service, we serve together and stuff like that, but a lot of times after that is just we just split. We go our own. Everybody has their own life. Everybody has their own stuff, but we end up separating into different places where we may not always communicate or we may not always reach out to the same people. So that's something that's just like, hey, if we can have a resource to do that, like, because there's plenty of entities out there, there's plenty of corporations or nonprofits that try to do the same thing. The problem is that with a lot of them, they still miss out on stuff. And that's something that we need to make sure that we don't fall into that issue so that at least everybody's helping each other and everybody understands like, hey, these are the available things to you. So to continue, so we started off with homelessness assistance and prevention. So this is where we left off last week, and it's just basically covering it that for VA's homeless programs constitute the largest integrated network of homeless assistance programs in the country, offering a wide array of services to help veterans recover from homelessness and live as self-sufficiently and independently as possible. So that's one of the big things here is just like we want to make sure that veterans are being taken care of. We should never have any veteran on the street. Plain and simple. That should be like a rule of thumb. It should not be a veteran on the street. Now, some veterans you run into, and if you've spoken to that they're homeless, some of them actually enjoy being homeless. So it's not a thing of that we can just remove all homeless people. It's a thing of also, hey, we have homeless veterans that are used to that. They like the living. They don't like the expenses. They don't like having to pay rent. They got used to it. And sometimes it's hard to get them off the streets. So in some cases, it's hard to get some homeless veterans off the streets because they don't want off the streets. They don't want to do with all that stuff. But then there are those veterans that do need help and do want to get off the streets. And that's where things like these benefits come in handy. So if you have any questions for that, there's a list of health facilities here. And it's usually for mental health. You can get mental health and stuff like that without any cost. And that's the one thing. If you're struggling, being homeless is a mental struggle. Almost becoming homeless is a mental struggle. Not being able to pay your bills and stuff like that, and the possibility of becoming homelessness is a very mind deteriorating issue. So that's something that people need to be aware of, but you need to have the resources in order to take care of these veterans to make sure that they are aware of the available resources that are there for them. Because a lot of the times, us veterans, we don't know. We don't know stuff till it's too late, or we find out stuff through somebody else after we've gotten past the problem, and then it's just like, you know what? It would have been nice to know I had this. So this is something that is always pushing it out. Additional services, there's a link here. Like I said, this will be tagged in the description of the video so that people can find it there. The Homeless Veterans Dental Program. Provision of dental care has been shown to significantly improve outcomes related to stable housing, employment, and financial stability for veterans experiencing homelessness. So this is something like, hey, I didn't know this existed for homeless. So you're able to get a dental program. Now, how much they cover, what they cover, that would be something that has to be inquired through them. But it also gives the website, and we can go and show you what that website looks like. And this is what it looks like. So there's the mission statement, the dental program, about it, contact information, gives you a little handbook. Also, you can click on and check, and that'll give you that information there. So, and that's for that, for the VA homeless programs, and that is there. So it has the site. So, like most of these things, they have a link. They have a website that's available to you to get that information. So that's why I like that they sent out this guide, because of the fact that it's just like, hey, all this information is available to you if you just look for it. The thing is certain things you just don't know about. Community resource and referral centers are a collaborative effort of the VA community service providers and agency partners. CRCs are centrally located to better engage homeless veterans. Veterans who enter these centers are referred to physical and mental health care resources, job development programs, housing options, and other VA and non-VA benefits. Homeless, another site, same thing. And this one is basically showing you the different community resource and referral centers, and this is across the country. So you can look at these across the country. They're located there to basically assist veterans with this issue. Probably the closer you are to a certain region, that's where you are probably going to be sent to, or who you will speak to in order to get your information from. Okay, community resource. So we went over that. So then we got the VA healthcare for homeless veterans, HCHV program. Serves as a gateway to VA community supportive services for eligible veterans. So another program gives you the highlight here, another page. So healthcare for homeless veterans, and it gives you the outreach, a fact sheet, and stuff for you to check on that way. So you can check that information this way. Homeless veterans community employment services. That one sounds pretty straightforward. Uh, the mission of HVCES is to provide employment services and resources to veteran participation in VHA homeless programs to increase access to permanent housing and improve housing stability. Employment decreases the risk of suicide and provides improved quality of life, increased self-confidence and independence, opportunities for socialization, and a decreased reliance on institutional care. Um, which is there basically for employment services, kind of like the VRE program, but this is more for homelessness. Because they have it here, HVCES is staffed by vocational development specialists and vocational rehabilitation counselors who function as community employment coordinators and employment specialists. Keep in mind that when they say vocational development specialists and vocational rehabilitation counselors, it is no longer called that. So they kept the name. So the counselors kept the name for the VRC. So basically the vocational rehabilitation counselors, they kept that name. The name of the program is Veteran Readiness and Employment. So the VRE is no longer vocational rehabilitation. It is Veteran Readiness and Employment. So that people don't get confused and think that it's two different programs. It's the same program, just the counselors kept the previous name that they had and they didn't change it. When or can they reevaluate your rating after 55 years old? So there's the three different rules. There's the 5-year rule, the 10-year rule, and the 20-year rule. Then after 55, there's different. With the 5, 10, and 20, I can't remember the specifics off the top of my head for each one, but the 5, 10, and 20 rule is basically once you have a rating after 5 years, it gets to a certain point where they may not reduce it or they may not evaluate it again. After 10 years, it's just like you can't lose any of it. And I think after like 20, it's just like even if you have improvement, it won't get reduced. So there's 3 different levels to it, but each level has a different criteria and it gives you different that I can't remember off the top of my head which one is which. But it's a 10-year, Hold on, I gotta move this out the way. 10-year, 20-year, 5-year, 10-year, and 20-year, and those are the ones that are basically will work that way. So that's how you use it that way. So that's the difference. But all three of those are three different. There's three different things, and each one of them gives you a different item. Basically, the easiest way of explaining it when it comes to the 10, 5, 10, 20 year, and after 55. Once you have a certain rating for a certain amount of time, they won't reduce it. Once you have it for a certain amount of time, even if it's improving, it stays the same and it's safe. And then after a certain amount, it's just not going to change. So that changes between each one. So that's the employment service. We went over that. So we have the homeless patient aligned care team. HPACs provide a coordinated medical home designed around the unique needs and distinct challenges homeless veterans face, both accessing and engaging in healthcare. At selected VA facilities, veterans are assigned to an HPAC that includes a primary care provider, nurse. So basically, this is the same thing as, hey, as a veteran, even within the system, if you are homeless, you still get assigned your provider. You still get provided the assistance to be taken care of and stuff like that, even if you are homeless. So it doesn't separate it and make it a different thing. You are still a veteran. You are just going through the homeless issue right now. So they're going to put you this so that you can still be medically seen, but then also put you in the program so that allows you to better yourself and find employment or find a home. There's also the HUD VASH program, which is a little bit lower, and we'll go through that. But the HUD VASH program is there to assist veterans with getting homes or a stable place to stay. So that's always there. The same thing with the homeless aligned one. It has its website, homeless aligned patient care. This is all in this guide. So if you have any specific questions or anything like that, you can resort to looking at the guide. The guide will have that specific information, and you can just tag on whatever it is, results so far, stuff like that. You got to check these links though, because a lot of the problems that I have with the VA is that a lot of this stuff is outdated and hasn't been updated. So if you look down and check on this one says last updated September 26, 2023. So basically saying that this program is still there, but there hasn't been anything updated within the site since 2023. So it has like program brief. Program brief is there, but it doesn't tell you when it started. It just tells you the program brief of what it goes through. So that's something that to keep in mind when it goes to a lot of these. It's like, hey, the VA has a vast number of resources. The thing is that a lot of parts of those pages are not being updated at the correct time. Can private health insurance affect your coverage under VA 100% rated? Should I drop my insurance? If you already have your own private health insurance, you should be okay because it should be supplemented. And the thing is, you got to remember some of the stuff you could just go through and use through the VA. Would I drop your private health insurance? No, because if you have family and you're 100% P&T, you need to make sure that you are applying for Chant VA, which then provide a secondary insurance to your primary insurance, which basically with anything that goes through Chant VA, 9 times out of 10, Chant VA pays it and they cover it. So literally, if you have your private health insurance and you use that, your family uses it, that's fine. Now what you do is you apply for Chant VA, which Chant VA has made it that you can apply online now. You don't have to just fax it or mail it. So now they have an online option for you to be able to fill out and do the Chant VA. So you don't have to worry about the snail mail. It'll be sent to them and they'll receive that. Once you get the Chant VA, from there you go to whatever doctors you go and be like, hey, I now have a secondary insurance. Secondary insurance is now Chant VA. Once you implement that and you have Chant VA as your secondary, literally when your family goes and gets seen by a doctor or anything of the sort, literally most of the time it gets covered. You will get a pamphlet. It's like a booklet that you will receive once you get the Chant VA, and it'll explain what is covered. I'll just like what percentage, and it'll say like, hey, if Chant VA is the primary, this is what it'll cover. If it's if it's secondary, this is what it'll cover. If you have a primary insurance, I would say keep it because that will take a brunt of it, but then Chant VA will cover the rest. So literally, I wouldn't say it's free healthcare, but it's close enough to it that your family can get seen, and for almost everything, Chant VA is covering the back half of whatever it is. So you know you get that bill from the health insurance that says, "Oh, this is what you owed. You owe this amount." So if you owe this amount, you usually get that bill. That's what you got to pay. When it comes to Chant VA, it'll be run through both. Should we choose a PPO or HMO? There, I wouldn't be able to advise you, because it depends on what's being offered, what's being covered. But I would say first, make sure you have Chant VA, because then once you have Chant VA, no matter which one you pick, you'll see what gets covered. So if you got to pay more, you know that Chant VA is going to cover the other half. You may not need to get the super expensive one because Chant VA may cover the rest of it. See, and vice versa. So it depends on your plan. It depends on your company, on what your health insurance is. That'll be a whole different situation, basically deciding on how it benefits you and your family. But with Chant VA covering most of the secondary cost of stuff, it's like primary insurance is not a bad thing. Yes, it costs money, but at the end of the day, you don't got to worry about any co-pays or any other I can't extensive bills or anything coming after you've been seen. Then I would do that. Thank you, girl. No problem, Luckiest. I just think at least that's the thing we're doing, because right now I have primary insurance and Chant VA is second. Kids get seen for anything, go to the doctor, stuff like that. It gets run through the primary insurance. Boom, whatever it is they cover, it's covered. Then whatever secondary has been covered by Chant VA. So my kids are being taken care of. So that's the best thing to do, because the thing is it sets your family up for success, because now you don't have to. It's a big burden dealing with medical bills in this country. That's one thing we deal with a lot. The medical bills do cost a lot, and it does add up over time, especially if you got that time period of the year where it's just like, hey, everybody's gonna get sick. Everybody gets sick, and then from there it's just like, oh shit, gotta go to the doctor for this, gotta get that. But if your pharmacy's being covered and your appointments are being covered, there's no loss in doing that. But you got to make sure that you're filing for Chant VA, and that's only something that's available to you when you are 100% P&T. So that's something you got to make sure you do. That's one of the main things that, as a veteran, once you get that, file for Chant VA. You got your family, file for Chant VA, because it does take a process. Even though they did it online, it's online available now. I'm not sure how quickly it actually gets done still. Because for me, it took like about 6 months to get an answer back. And that's because I decided to call them and be like, hey, it's been about this amount of time. I still haven't heard anything. And then they was like, oh, we didn't notice this. And my thing was ready. They just hadn't, I guess, sent it to the right office or whatever the case may be. But with me calling it, that's what had it. And then within 3 days, I got my damn little slips for my kids and all the stuff. And I was just like, so it is beneficial. And if you're 100% P&T, you're also a veteran. So you can go and get seen for what you need to at the VA. So that also helps. So it can reduce costs, because it's like, hey, I can be seen at the VA for certain things that I know may be expensive through my primary insurance. So the Homeless Providers Grant and Per Diem Program. The Per Diem program allows VA to award grants to community-based agencies to create transitional housing programs with wraparound supportive services to assist vulnerable veterans move into permanent housing. The GPD program is VA's largest transitional housing program with approximately 11,000 beds nationwide. So this is basically a program that is just like, hey, let's get them into a house, but it's like a transition house. So we have them housed in this location. Once we get them situated and stuff like that, we'll move them into a permanent house. And that leads into, like I was speaking on, the HUD-VASH program. So the Housing and Urban Development Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing Program. This collaborative program pairs HUD's Housing Choice Voucher rental assistance with VA case management and supportive services. These services are designed to help homeless veterans and their families obtain permanent housing and access the healthcare, mental health treatment, and other supports necessary to help them improve their quality of life and maintain housing over time. So basically the same thing, has the link there. You click on it. The HUD-VASH is basically, you can say it's kind of like it's like a voucher program, which it explains it here. Um, the program provides supportive services to very low income veteran families living in or transitioning to permanent housing. It is designed to rapidly rehouse homeless veteran families and prevent homelessness for those at imminent risk of becoming homeless due to a housing crisis. So basically, that is just like, hey, if you are a veteran and you know somebody that's going through financial issues, or they may be talking about they got to sell the house or they got to do all this stuff, this is something that you need to make sure you pass this along to them. It's just like, hey, it's not saying that you are going to become homeless, but at least you know that this program is available, so that way, in case something does go wrong or there is an emergency situation or a random situation, you are able to know that this program is here to assist you to make sure that you do not become homeless, so that it transitions you in there. And it's basically like a waiver program that they go with housing, so that way they can do that. Plot. Appreciate you tuning in, my man, as always. Um, Provide authorities, and that's basically what that takes care of. So that way it's like, hey, veterans, if you know you are going to fall into a possible crisis, and your family may fall into a crisis, whether it's losing a job or loss of employment, stuff like that, and you need to make sure you have a house or something like that, this is something to look into, because it's a program that's made to make sure you are taken care of and you have a place for your family to be there also. Domiciliary care for home veterans. This program is for veterans with mental health concerns who are homeless, at risk of homelessness. Care is provided for multiple challenges, illnesses, or rehabilitative needs. Basically, a program to make sure to take care of veterans, homeless veterans. Compensated work therapy, transitional residence. Designed for veterans who face employment barriers due to mental health conditions or physical disabilities. Compensated work therapy transition residence provides veterans with assistance and coaching to find and retain jobs as they continue treatment, empowering the transition to independent living. Basically, another one of those programs that's there to help veterans. Like I said, a lot of these programs are here. Most veterans don't know that they exist. So, like I said, if it's something that you know of a homeless veteran or know of a person that may be doing this, make sure to point them into this guide. Make sure to have them go through all these different instances and all this different documentation that's available to them when it comes to homeless assistance, so that they don't become homeless. And that takes care of that. So now we have family members and survivors. This is information on for family members and survivors. So this is the part where a lot of veterans don't. How can I put it? A lot of veterans don't. A lot of veterans don't pay attention to a lot of these benefits, because a lot of these benefits are not explained to the veteran. A lot of the times when it comes to benefits, when it comes to any kind of benefits, it's the service member, whoever served, stuff like that. There are a ton of family member and survivor benefits. Some of them are more influential because of the state you reside in. Some are federal benefits, which is this is what we're covering here is the federal benefits, but you have to look and inquire about your own state. Your own state may have benefits for your survivors, for your dependents and stuff like that. Some provide schooling for free. Some provide certain like job applications to hire spouses and more and get them more availability. Um, there's the Chapter 35 benefits, which is basically a dependent or kid can basically receive you can receive a monthly stipend while you're going to school. Plot, appreciate you as always, my man. And you do that. There's so many benefits that come with being a veteran and becoming a veteran, even when if it's 100% PNT or not, that are still available to you that you need to inquire about, because a lot of the stuff can help family members. Look, if you can get your kid to go to school for free, that's a cost burden that you don't have to worry about as a parent looking out for those loans, or for your kid to worry about being able to go to school and get an education and not worry about the back end where it's just like, hey, I need to pay all these thousands of dollars in school fees. That goes a long way, because for all of us, I know for most veterans going through the process, when it comes to it, even though when you're 100% PNT, you can get your loans deferred, but there's a little thing you could do there, and I've explained that before. You get your loans deferred or you get your student loans paid off. as 100% PNT, but the ability to provide a further education for your family at a lower or reduced cost price or no cost at all, that's a big plus. That leaps you ahead of the issue that you had prior where you had to pay for school. Now you at least know that next generation doesn't have to worry about it. So that's something that you can build off of. So the Affordable Care Act was created to expand access to affordable health care coverage to all Americans, lower cost, and improve quality and care coordination. Under the healthcare law, people will have health care coverage that meets a minimum standard called minimum essential coverage by January, so everybody understands that. Or pay out a fee when filing the taxes if they don't have. So you get that form. I think it's like a 10. Is it a 1095? I think it's a 1095 that they send you like, hey, you have medical coverage and this has covered you and stuff like that. That's the form that basically does that. So when you have that, it's basically like, hey, you got the medical coverage. It's here. This is what's being notated. Now you can look at it this way. But then it continues here. So VA wants all veterans and their families to receive health care that improves their health and well-being. Dependents and survivors enrolled in civilian health and medical program of the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, CHAMP VA, like we were speaking about earlier, or the Spina Bifida healthcare program, meet the requirements to have healthcare coverage under the healthcare law and do not need to take any additional steps. The law does not change CHAMP VA or Spina Bifida benefits, access, or costs. Veterans' family members who do not have the minimum essential coverage required by the health law may shop for and purchase private health insurance through the thing. So basically, because this is saying that, hey, if you don't want that primary insurance and you want CHAMP VA to be your sole insurance, you do have that and it covers your thing. But like I said, you have to look at the booklet. Once you are approved for CHAMP VA, you have to look at the booklet and see what it covers, because there's certain things that it does, certain things that it doesn't, and it tells you what it covers and what it doesn't. So that's something that you want to look into before you decide, hey, I don't want to have private insurance. It could be a benefit. Like, hey, if you don't need private insurance and you have the stuff that covers you through the VA, through CHAMP VA, and they say it'll cover it and you're good with that, by all means do it. But if you have private insurance and it's going to cover a good portion of it and then CHAMP VA covers the other half, that means you basically have free healthcare through your private insurance and your VA insurance. Just keep that in mind. But like I said, you have to do your homework and make sure you're studying, making sure you are investing the time to look into what the different issues are so that you know what's going on when it comes to what's covered and what's not. Dependent and survivors benefits. A death gratuity. The death gratuity program provides a special tax-free payment of $100,000 to eligible survivors of members of the armed forces who die while on active duty or while serving in certain reserve statuses. The death gratuity is the same regardless of the cause of death. So that's basically something that is just like there's $100,000 eligibility. Death gratuity, if it happens, that's separate from, I believe, your VSGLI and VGLI and all those other ones that we covered last week. The long-standing purpose of the death gratuity has been to provide immediate cash payment to assist survivors of deceased members of the armed forces to meet their financial needs during the period immediately following a member's death and before other survivor benefits, if any, become available. So this basically like, hey, service member passed away on active duty for whatever, like this is to cover cost, funeral, stuff like that to make sure they're taken care of. Survivor Benefit Program. The Survivor Benefit Plan is a Department of Defense sponsored and subsidized program that provides up to 55% of a service member's retired pay to an eligible beneficiary upon the death of the member. The program provides no-cost automatic coverage to members serving on active duty, the reserve component members who die of a service-connected cause while performing inactive duty training. In addition, active duty members can purchase coverage upon retirement, and reserve component members can elect coverage when they have 20 years of qualifying service. So they have that. And then that has that it has that extra information on top of that. This is the one that I always get a ton of questions on. It's the dependency and indemnity compensation. So this is basically, I'm gonna just read it off of here, and then if people have any questions, make sure to ask the questions to see if you want a deeper explanation of it. Even though I think this will cover most of it, it's something that, a lot of people have questions towards, and I've had people reach out to me on TikTok and on YouTube, on how does it work? What does it do? Because there's a lot of service members that have these issues, or surviving spouses or dependents that had a service member or a veteran pass away, and some don't know that this is available to them. As long as the service member passed away from a service connected issue. But we'll read this along here. So the dependency and indemnity compensation. DIC is a tax-free monetary benefit generally payable to eligible survivors of military service members who died in the line of duty, or eligible survivors of veterans whose death resulted from a service-related injury or disease. So it specifies that it has to be from a service-related injury or disease. DIC may also be paid to certain survivors of veterans who were totally disabled from service-connected conditions at the time of death, even though their service-connected disability did not cause their deaths. So let me read that again. DIC may also be paid to certain survivors of veterans who were totally disabled from service-connected conditions at the time of death, even though their service-connected disability did not cause their death. The survivor qualifies if the veteran was continuously rated totally disabled for a period of 10 years immediately preceding death, continuously rated totally disabled from the date of military discharge and for at least 5 years immediately preceding the death, a former POW who was continuously rated totally disabled for a period of at least 1 year immediately preceding death. So these are the 3 different instances where the survivor qualifies if the veteran was just totally disabled. So if you were 100% PNT, this is where you would fall under. But you have to meet that criteria. So at least of 10 years, or immediately preceding the death, 5 years, or POW. So if a chronic illness causes complications that created the cause of a death spouse will qualify. So that's the thing is where most people need to understand is so the question is, so if a chronic illness causes complications that created the cause of death, a spouse will qualify. You have to make sure. So one of the things that I've seen from a lot of people I've spoken to with this issue is that you have to make sure that on that death certificate, it states that service-connected issue. So if you have a chronic illness and it's a service-connected chronic illness, you have to, like, on that death certificate, it has to say that, oh, service member passed because of this chronic illness. Because the thing is basically, unless you fall into the 3 that we just read just now, which is these 3 right here, if you fall into that criteria, then you may still be able to apply. Otherwise, you need to make sure that your death certificate or the death certificate of the veteran shows and highlights, hey, they died because of this. So cause of death, heart attack. Maybe it was because of high blood pressure, or the high blood pressure caused the heart attack. That would have to be on that death certificate to basically be able to contribute. It was like, oh, he passed away because of this. Because if you passed away of something that wasn't service connected, they see it as, well, you passed away like of natural causes. Then the VA didn't have anything to do with it, or the military didn't cause this to be a part of the reason why you passed. So that's why it's important to have that on that death certificate. They have to have that. But we'll keep on going and keep on explaining because it has the eligibility. So to qualify for DIC, a surviving spouse must meet the following requirements: married to a service member who died on active duty in training, married the veteran before January 1st of 1957, married the veteran within 15 years of discharge from the period of military service in which the disease or injury that caused the veteran's death began or was aggravated, was married to the veteran for at least 1 year, had a child with the veteran and cohabited with the veteran continuously until the veteran's death. If separated, was not at fault for the separation and is not currently remarried. A surviving spouse who remarries on or after January 5th of 2021, upon attaining age of 55, remains eligible for DIC benefits. A surviving spouse who previously lost to eligibility to DIC due to a remarriage occurring between the ages of 55 and 57 would not be eligible to have the benefit reinstated effective January 5th of 2021. So it's kind of, so this is new to me because I didn't know this. So basically a surviving spouse who remarries at age 55 can start collecting DIC benefits. This is something that's new to me because this I wasn't too sure of. But it basically explains it. A surviving spouse who remarries on or after January 5th of 2021 upon attaining age 55 remains eligible for DIC benefits. Because remember, here it's saying that you can't remarry. But now here it's saying if it's past 55, you may still be entitled to these benefits even if you remarry. So that's something to keep in mind. DIC eligibility for surviving child. Hey, no problem, luckiest. That's the thing. That's what we do. We do these every Sunday because it's to educate people on stuff. Because a lot of these things are not known by veterans. Veterans have no idea that these benefits are there. I didn't even know that. I didn't know the certain ones for the eligibility stuff or for the DIC to still be eligible without it being on the death certificate. So that's good to explain to people. But as we keep on going, there's a couple more things that is going to be explained here for DIC. But we'll show that, and that way it's just like people know what is going on. So people are educated on the fact that, like, hey, if I pass, I know that my family will be taken care of, kind of thing. And that's the biggest thing else as veterans that we worry about is like, hey, making sure that we can continue to pay our bills, making sure our kids are taken care of when we're not around to take care of them. Because right now, if you're at 100% PNT, you're receiving about like $4,000. If you got kids and a spouse, you're at $4,000 plus. Now, if you pass because of something that was service connected, that $4,000 isn't there anymore. The DIC payments make certain amount, but it doesn't cover the full amount that you were gaining off of just your disability payment. So now instead of getting that $4,000 tax free, you may be getting only $2,000 tax free, depending on the DIC payments, because there's certain payments and they structure it differently, but it's not going to be the same amount unless you have existential additional stuff added that raises it, but you're not going to be making the same. So that's a big difference when it comes to taking care of your family and stuff, because if you pass, you want to make sure that they're at least taken care of or at least being looked after. And if you know you have these payments, at least it's something compared to going from getting that tax-free money to not getting tax-free money at all. And that causes a big change. So for the child, surviving child may be eligible if not included on the surviving spouse's DIC and is unmarried and under age 18 or between the ages of 18 and 23 and attending school at an approved institution. A child adopted out of a veteran's family may be eligible for DIC if all other eligibility criteria are met. DIC for a surviving parent. So this is like if you have dependents as your parents, because you can add dependents. You can add your parents as dependents. So if you are providing monetary stuff, if they are living with you or you're taking care of them, you're sending money to them, and you have like statements and stuff like that, and you show it, you can add them as part of your dependents because you are taking care of them. You are the financial assistant, or you're paying for their rent, or whatever the case may be. That's something that you can use also. The DIC for the surviving parents is an income-based benefit for parents who were financially dependent on a service member or veteran who died from a service-related cause. When countable income exceeds the limit set by law, no benefits are payable. The spouse's income must also be included if the parent is living with a spouse. So it's basically like on an income level that they decide to make that. DIC aid in attendance and housebound benefits. So this is if you're housebound. If a veteran died on or after January 1st of 1993, the veteran's surviving spouse may receive additional benefits beyond the basic DIC rate if the spouse is residing in a skilled nursing facility, require the regular assistance of another person to perform the activities of daily living, or they are permanently housebound. This additional benefit is referred to as aid in attendance or housebound. So basically, you got to remember, you may be housebound, but if your spouse is also, that is a different payment. because of the fact that sometimes, hey, if it's both of you are getting up there in age and you both need assistance, that's there. So, Sarah says, "Thank you for your work. My uncle was the secretary of Veterans Affairs, and veterans deserve so much better than they have." Sarah, I appreciate that. Hopefully, I could probably one day get a job through the VA if they stop this hiring freeze. Um, but hopefully to be able to assist veterans in that way. But that's why we do this, because most people go to YouTube or they try to Google stuff to get answers. So this is just a way of pushing that information out there so that people obtain this information that is readily available, but veterans just don't know where to find it or how to get to it. So this is just to make sure to do that. And the thing is like I said, look, the va.gov is a good site. I'm not gonna say it's a bad site. It's a good site. The problem is that it has to be a bit better when it comes to user friendliness. Some of these veterans are older, are not very tech savvy. And the thing is if you don't know how to search for things on that site, it is overwhelming. I've said that before when it came to me first filing. It's overwhelming to go into va.gov and try to find specific information because it's like 8 clicks to get to something. They need passionate people. It's not the best, and it's confused. Yeah, it makes it difficult because of the fact that it's just like, look, the simplest thing that I've always shown while doing going to the VA site is look at how many clicks it takes for you to be able to figure out how much disability pay rates are. Yo, military Mike, what's up, my man? Yeah, I know. I changed the name to Veteran Awareness Project, so that's why it was. Yeah, I could figure why you could find it. But yeah, that's all it is. It's just like, that's why it's just like I made that video I made. It's easier for you to find that information. Why? Because it's available to you. If you need to know what the pay charts are, it's just like, hey, this is it. Yeah, see, and I have somebody saying, yes, it is overwhelming for the Vietnam veterans. It is an overwhelming factor. It's just like, look, the crazy thing, like I said, it was overwhelming to me as a person that's been around computers and uses a computer and has all this stuff. It was overwhelming for me just to look into it and be like, yo, where do I even start? Oh, just like, because the easiest thing is just like, oh, file a disability claim. There's no tutorials. There's no class. There's no like PDF or anything. It's just like, hey, this is how you go about filing your disability claim. None of that is explained. And even when you do it, like when you're getting out of the service, which is, I think, is the biggest issue, it was like you take those classes and those classes are bullshit. I'm sorry to say. It was just like the briefing for the VA part is literally like, hey, this is the site. This is how you get to it. You click on here and you file. At least that was my experience leaving Germany. In the States, it's different because you can actually reach out to a VSO. You can go to the American Legion or the VFW. Germany had one VFW post, which I joined up with, and I worked with with a German orphanage. We helped have our firefighters in my platoon. I made sure to coordinate that stuff and help them, and it was one of my squad leaders. He was the one that coordinated with them, and we did an orphanage thing where we went and we took the fire department to them. They got to test the thing, you know how kids like to play with stuff like that. But those programs are there and things are there that people just don't know about. It's overwhelming. Vietnam veterans is like, hey, if you're not computer savvy, it's hard to get this information. It's hard to figure this information out if you're not computer savvy. Most of it is just like I said, just to get to disability rates, it's like 8 clicks to get to disability, then this part of the disability, then compensation rates. And it was just like, look, just put the information that you know veterans are looking for. Like, yes, it breaks it down to education. You click on education and it's just like, holy shit. So it's just like, I always recommend them go to the VSO to file the claim. Yeah, I always tell people to go to a VSO. The thing is that I also tell people, it's just like, I'm always going to recommend you to a VSO no matter what is going on. If I don't know the answer, or if I tell you it's just like, hey, I'm gonna give you this guideline. This is the guidelines to what you need. Go to a VSO, because these people, that's their job. These people get paid for that. I don't get paid for this. I do this as just as an educational benefit for that. If you learn something from here, I appreciate it. If it's helped you, shit, if you've reached 100% and stuff like that, and it don't hurt, and I helped you get to that 100%, if you can become a member for $1 a month, it's $1. You making a couple hundreds, you making a couple extra hundred, a couple $1,000 a month more because of my assistance or what I taught you. It doesn't hurt to just help donate and just put like $1 and become a member. That's all I'm saying. I don't get paid for this. VSOs actually get a salary for that, and I'm just doing this for free. I was just like, about to be to walk up to someone and them telling you, I got you. This is what you need to do step by step. And that's what, George, that's the thing that I try to do here. Because the thing is I don't provide any consultations. Because the thing is if I did one consultation and Annette was here earlier. That was the only consultation I've done. Thing is it is time consuming. That is my time I am doing. And that would mean I am assisting you with making sure you are straight, but I don't get nothing out of it. He said, brother, you should be a VSO. How do you become? You have to become accredited. And the thing is, Mike, if I'm an accredited VSO, I am not able to do this. So I wouldn't be able to use the information and stuff like that to push out like, hey, I'm a VSO, but I also have my channel. So that's why it's just like I wanted to become accredited, but then it's conflicting because it doesn't allow you to do this because I can't push it. I was a paramedic for a long time. Most veterans have no clue about medical evidence. You almost need to be a medical professional to navigate the VA claim system. It comes to it, but it's difficult. Yes, I do have a website. It is veteran awareness. Hold on. I'll link it in here. That is the website that we've created. So basically, it would just be, you would have to be a VSO, but you would have to be, because you're accredited now. So then you would be recognized by the VA. So you wouldn't be able to push out like all this stuff that I'm doing. I wouldn't be able to do that, and I wouldn't be able to take care of you because I'm working as a thing. And if you notice, for most VSOs, they don't charge you anything. When you go to these other agencies, they are charging you a bundle of money. I don't do that. Here is just like, hey, if you want to donate, you want to subscribe, you want to watch the videos, you want to comment, you want to provide engagement to the channel, that's how you help support this and help support me creating this and continuing with this. But besides that, I was just like, I'm just assisting here for free. It's just like something that I know I needed and I could have used when I was going through this problem of disability claims, benefits, and entitlements. This was something that benefited me. And I figured if I could do this for other veterans, it'll help benefit them so that they can get past the hump of sometimes it's just like not knowing how to file correctly, not knowing that they have these entitlements, not knowing that there are benefits available to you that you can use that some people just don't know. So it's just like, that's why we do these and we go through these things, because it's just like, this is information that's at the federal level that doesn't change. When you go into the state level, it changes because each state is built different. Each state provides this and provides that. See, every single time a person goes to a hospital, clinic, urgent care center, upon discharge, they should ask for a copy of the medical notes for that visit. They will gladly give. Yeah. And the thing is a lot of the times people don't do that. Luckiest on TikTok. If you go to my bio, I should have the link on there, and it should be the website is www.vetawarenessproject.com. Vet as VET, the word awareness, the word project.com, and that is the website that we have that we're just building it up as we can. And that provides different information, VA forms, Nexus, example of a Nexus letter, resources is just like your government representation. So if you want to reach out to your government officials and ask them questions, email them or contact them, and stuff like that. But that'll keep on growing as we go. But yeah, people need to get their records. They need to get their records. And that's something I think people need to start doing not only while they are in service, but also at the end of the service. Do this as a military veteran. Anything that you have, like I said, you had your I Love Me book, which is everything you could accomplish, awards, certificates, um, anything of the sort that's good. Now you have to have your I Hurt Me book. So as active duty, you want to make sure that you are taking all the documentation of every time you got seen, hurt, and everything, put that in a folder. The same way when you become a vet, do the same thing. When you go to the doctor and you know it was from something that is service connected or something that happened with the VA or the medical on the military side, get a copy of it. Put it away in a folder. Because nothing is you are 100% P&T, but down the line you may get it reevaluated, or you need to file a claim for something that you may pass away from that you know you want to claim. They might reevaluate. At least you have all that documentation, because that's the problem with a lot of the Vietnam vets. They don't have this documentation. They don't have this paperwork of 20 plus years of being seen for an issue that is not service connected, but was service caused. So if you don't have that 20-year gap there, then it makes it difficult to service connect something, because you got a 20-year gap of not having any treatment, not having the documentation and stuff like that. That goes a long way to showing like, hey, either this has gotten worse, this has gotten better. So that's something that you want to make sure that you're doing. And it's just like, keep documentation from everywhere. Every document you have that pertains to your medical stuff, you should have a copy of it. Your doctors and your providers are going to have a copy of it, but you should have your own copy of it too, just to make sure like, hey, you have this. Or even better, what I tend to do also is like, hey, if you go, let's say you are being seen for whatever it is you're being seen, community care or whatever, you get a copy of it. So if you went and you got seen on this date, usually the VA will send something like, if it's community care or something, they'll send you a form. Like, this isn't a bill. This is just saying like how much was charged and stuff like that. File that shit away. Because then you have every single instance of every time you got seen for something, so that you can just be like, look, I got all this documentation of every time I got seen. Now you can go and ask for the documentation from your provider. Like, look, I need the information on these dates. And you can get all that. I got here. These days were paid for. I can use this documentation. All right. Let's see. Does your org have a LinkedIn? I know LinkedIn can be annoying, but that's where a lot of the gov officials communicate, share stuff. Sarah, I still haven't created one. I have my personal one. I have to work on creating the LinkedIn version of it, so that way it ties into it. So that's something I am working on, to finally create that one and just put it all together, so that way people can find it there and I can start posting there. Because right now I just post kind of like on my personal one, just like little things here, but I don't post enough on LinkedIn because it's like another Facebook at times. But it is beneficial for business wise to put that in there, so I will create one, or at least finish it, because that's one thing I have not done. Was a small notation. Yeah, tough to service connect, but yeah, if you're separated for that long, which like I said, that's the biggest issue. So Extreme says, developing a strong relationship with a good doctor is so important. Being upfront about the struggle with the VA claim system. Some doctors are not so congenial. Good doctors are like gold. And Extreme, that's one of the reasons why I decided to create the guideline template of a Nexus letter. Because the thing is a lot of times veterans don't have that information to provide to a doctor. They don't have a document basically highlighting that. They don't have. It's just like, hey doc, I need a Nexus letter that I'm dealing with the VA. I'm filing a disability claim. I need a Nexus letter connecting this to this. That this is the reason why I have that. Or more likely than not, it's the reason that I have this. Most people tell their doctor they need a Nexus letter, and their doctor just looks at them all confused with the deer in the headlights look, like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know how it's formatted. So that's why I provided that on the website. So it's just like, hey, veterans, if you need to know what a Nexus letter looks like, this is the template basically. From here, you can give this to your doctor and your doctor can fill it out appropriately, or you can assist them in helping it. And then you look at the DBQs also, and that helps you fill it out. So you can fill out a DBQ, fill out a Nexus letter, and have all that together. But now you know what a Nexus letter looks like, because a DBQ is straightforward because it has the information you need. It tells you what you're filling out, where you're filling it out. Nexus letter, this is your bridge. This is what's connecting the things. And once you put those two together, Nexus letter and a DBQ, your claim becomes stronger because you have that identifiable information. And that's what you got to make sure you're doing. So DIC 8-year special allowances. If a deceased veteran was considered permanent and totally disabled, rating, or permanent and total individual unemployed, so TDIU also. So either one, as long as you're 100% TDIU or PNT. Continuous years prior to death and the surviving spouse was married to the veteran for those same 8 years, the surviving spouse may be entitled to an additional monthly benefit on the DIC award. Like I said, the DIC is different, but it has different specifics in writing for it. I wrote next from my. Yeah, the thing is some of them, I was wondering, but I make sure. Yeah, that's what you got to do, but keep a note of that. And you can also request your C file, request your documentation from the thing, because you got to remember, if you're getting seen by the VA, you want to make sure you have that information, because having that information shows what they are writing. So now you know that when you got seen, oh, they said this, they said that. We talked about this. We didn't talk about that. It was just like, oh, I remember speaking about this, but that isn't in the notes. Stuff like that, so that way you are aware. That way, if you need be, hey, we spoke about this issue, but we didn't go in depth, and you go on your healthy vet, send them a message real quick and just be like, hey, I was looking over the notes and I didn't see anything on this, and I want to make sure I see this, so that way, let's say you are dealing with an issue, you can go and make sure to look at that specific issue and be like, you know what? I got it. Hold on. Let's see what Annette says. Yes, he did help me with ideas for my claims. I am a post-Vietnam vet. We did not have pleasure of going to sick call. We were told when to go to sick call. Mr. Cruz helped me out. See, so like I said, Annette has, I wouldn't say will be only, but has been the only person that I have assisted with like a consultation. The thing is like with me, a lot of the stuff is, as veterans, we start thinking in this box. Sometimes you got to think outside the box to help you with your disability claims or to help explain your disability. Buddy statements, written statements, your own statement explaining and claiming. Because like I was telling, like with what I told Annette was, your personal statement is a statement explaining the story and the evidence to a VA rater. Because remember, these VA raters don't know who you are. They don't know your story. They don't know the event. If you are putting it in detail and you are writing specifics and stuff like that, it allows them to see like, oh, this is why they're claiming this. It happened on this moment. This is the information that's here. This is the information that's there. And you paint that picture because you want to paint that picture for that VA rater. Like I said, if you can't give your file to a random person and they can't tell you what's wrong with you, then why should a VA rater be able to tell what's wrong with you? And that's the mentality veterans need to take. It was just like, make sure you are doing your due diligence so that it is appropriate. So that way it's just like, you know what? This is what I have. This is what I'm filing for. Now you have the full picture with evidence, with documentation, nexus letter, DBQ, whatever you provide. But your statement is like that glue that glues all that stuff together. So when it happened, how it affects you, and you have it in writing, but it's also thinking outside the box of the stuff that it limits you. Because that's where a lot of veterans fail to voice when it comes to the CAP exams. It's the limiting factors. The VA wants to know how your injury, how what you're dealing with is limiting you. Pain is pain. Everybody deals with it differently, but the way it limits you is the way it limits you. The problem with cervical injury was placed. See, and see stuff like that. Things like that. That's why you have to request that C file. Because the net says, yes, I did request my C file. The problem, a cervical injury, was placed as documented as a sprain. So that's why you would need to ask for your documentation, because your documentation can have solid evidence in it that changes your whole thing. Because like in that case, you have a cervical injury, which could be a dislocated disc. It could be a dislocate, like a cervical. You can have it as a strain, or you can have degenerative disc disease, or whatever the case may be. But if they're labeling it as and diagnosing it as something completely different, remember the CFR is going to go off of what it is the claim is. So if you just have a cervical strain, it's just going to put it as a cervical strain. It's not going to try to look into if there's a degenerative disc disease, a dislocated disc, or anything like that. Said there was no CT or MRI back then. Now 40 years later, I'm screwed. And that's like I said, that's the hardest part when it comes to Vietnam era veterans. It's just like the information and the ability to have everything digital is not there how it is now. For veterans now, you shouldn't have a problem getting your stuff done, because the advances since the Vietnam time are way are drastically better. The problem is that we have a lot of the older veterans which are having these problems because all these programs were not in place in those days. Technology was not in place in those days. We wouldn't be doing this right now in those days. I'm not able to get this information out to people in those days. Most people, if they found this information, if you got this PDF, it would probably be a thick book that they would hand out, and they only printed a limited amount. If you got your hands on it, you got lucky and you got this information. Otherwise, it probably wasn't being even printed out, so people didn't know. So that's where we have to do this, to try to educate people on stuff that's there and whatnot. That's the special allowances restored entitlement program for survivors. An additional special benefit may be payable to veterans who died of service-connected causes prior to 1981. Survivor's pension. This is one that a lot of people do inquire about also. So, survivor's pension is an income and net worth based program payable to low income surviving spouses or children who have not married or remarried since the death of the veteran. Any benefit payable is reduced by annual income from other sources, such as Social Security. If the survivor has unreimbursed medical expenses, these costs can be deducted from countable income to increase the benefit amount. Eligibility for survivor's pension. If the veteran served on or before September 7th, 1980, the veteran must have served at least 90 days of active military service with at least 1 day during a wartime period. So basically, if you were in a wartime period where it's just distinguished, which is like OIF, OEF, all that stuff, it's there. You have that there. All military should make a complete copy of medical records prior to ease. Multiple, they also start on a sick call. The thing about that extreme is just like all military personnel, you get a copy of your military records. The problem is that you got to remember, a lot of these people that are those doctors and stuff like that, those PAs and the thing, don't always adequately notate what is wrong with you. So if you're not paying attention to what's going into your file, these people don't give a shit because they deal with the whole brigade or a couple of brigades or battalions. They ain't gonna remember everybody's issue. They just write down what they write, and if it's in there, it's in there. If it's not, it's not. So if you don't make sure that it's notated in there, you're gonna lose out on information that should be in there. And the one thing I gotta tell people is, a lot of the times, remember, for active duty, if you know active duty service members, make sure that you have all your appointments done, situated about getting seen or everything like that before you request your medical records. Because the thing is once you request that medical record, these people are not waiting for those appointments that are like 1 or 2 months down that are actually going to be beneficial to your CMP exam. They're going off of the date and time that you asked for and you requested, and that's the amount of documentation you're going to get. Because me, I asked for my records, but then I got my MRI from my shoulder, and my MRI results were not in my actual medical record. I had to take them separately and get the documentation separately to then process that into my medical records and put it into my claim because it was two separate things. So literally, I got my time in service from when I requested it all the way from day one. And then everything after that, I had to ask for separately because that did not end up in my medical records. So that's something that veterans need to understand, that it's just like, don't just assume everything is going to be in there. Ask, make sure the documentation, hey, can I get a record of this? They're going to be, look, somebody in the service I know is going to be upset. Like, yo, why is this dude always asking for a copy of his stuff? It's your right. It's your stuff. I know, Extreme. I know. They don't want you to be non-deployable. They want to keep you non-deployable, so they put you on a profile that allows you to be deployable, and they don't diagnose you with something wrong until it's time to go. And what I notice is also is when it comes to those military medical staff, they are going to make sure that you are deployable while you are at that location. When you are about to PCS or when you are about to ETS, from there, all of a sudden, magically, they'll try to diagnose you with stuff, or they'll claim this or claim that, or say, oh, this is what it is, because they are no longer going to be an issue for you. So once you know it's like, hey, you're clearing and stuff like that, they see it as like, hey, this person is leaving. We don't need him to be deployable. That'll be their problem if he's non-deployable. Here, he's deployable, so our numbers are good. Once he leaves us, we don't give a damn. He can deal with that at the other place, and then he won't be deployable at that other location. So keep that in mind. Several days that the veteran entered active duty service after September 1980, served at least 24 months. To qualify as a surviving child of a deceased veteran, there must be 18 or under the age of 23 if attending a VA-approved school. How to apply for the survivor's pension. It gives you the address and basically you can mail it. I know with a lot of the stuff with the VA, they are trying to implement it so that it is now a digital thing. Once that becomes it becomes a lot easier. But at the same time, we got to remember our older veterans don't have all that availability. Some have computers, some don't. Some have their cell phones, and most don't know how to operate them to the full capacity. So those are things you got to pay attention to. Survivors aid and attendance housebound benefits is basically the same thing when it comes to aid and attendance. Those are things that if you are aid and attendance bound or housebound, do you get a different compensation level? The same way when you have the special monthly compensation that you get that added on there. Because of that, that's what it is. That's how you get there. So that's where you get that information from, and that's where you get that the housebound is always going to pay more because you are housebound. Same thing for aid and attendance, the how to apply for it. Reductions for Medicaid covered nursing facility care. So surviving spouses without dependents or surviving children who are in a Medicaid approved nursing facility and are covered by a Medicaid plan for services furnished by the nursing facility are limited to receiving $90 per month in pension benefits. Children of women Vietnam veterans born with certain birth defects. Biological children of women veterans who served in Vietnam at any time during the period beginning on February 28th of 1961 till May 7th of 1975 may be eligible for certain benefits because of birth defects associated with the mother's service in Vietnam that resulted in a permanent physical or mental disability. The covered birth defects do not include conditions due to family disorders, birth-related injuries, or fetal or neonatal infirmities with well-established causes. And then it gives you the eligibility, the birth defects, which ones are there, so you can click on that and there. Same thing, and you have the Office of Survivors Assistance. VA has an Office of Survivors Assistance that serves as information experts about the benefits available for survivors. So this is a good one. This one I didn't know that they actually had an office for. So this is basically for survivors assistance. There are different, I know there's different organizations that have programs that are for survivors. Some have educational grants, some have scholarships and stuff like that veterans survivors can use in order to do that. Okay, so here's one of the bigger parts that we need to get into. So this one is the appeals and supplemental claims. Disagreements with VA claims decisions under appeals modernization. The Veteran Appeals Improvement and Modernization Act of 2017, implemented on February 19, 2019, modernized the claims and appeals process. The modernized appeals process is simple, timely, and fair to veterans, offering veterans greater choice in how they resolve disagreements with VA decisions. Well, we'll take this lightly when we read these. But this is the breakdown of basically the different type of appeals, which most veterans don't know. And sometimes what veterans do is instead of appealing it, they go and refile again, which basically restarts your whole intent to file date because it was denied before, when you can appeal it and try to fight it that way, get it improved, and then receive that back pay. Typical decisions subject to review include disability compensation, pension, education benefits, recovery of overpayments, reimbursement for unauthorized medical services, and denial of burial and memorial benefits. Claimant generally has 1 year from the date of the notice of a VA decision to request a decision review from one of three options. However, claimants only have 60 days to file an appeal for contested claims. Claims where a favorable decision on one claim requires the denial or a lesser benefit to another claimant. Appeals for contested claims must be filed directly with the Board of Veteran Appeals. To file a disagreement with the VA decision dated on or after February 19th of 2019, veterans or claimants may pursue one of three different options: a higher level review, a supplemental claim, or an appeal directly to the board. And this is something that gets sent to you when you get your VA rating letter or stuff like that. It gives you that document. It's always a separate page where it shows you these are the different ways you can appeal if you have an issue with it. Just so mad at myself for not starting the VA claims process 25 years ago. Could have retired 10 years ago, 55, almost to get SSA. It's people not knowing, Extreme. That's the thing. Some people don't know. Some people don't know the process. Some people don't want to deal with the military after a certain amount. So when it comes to filing claims and stuff like that, they just don't. Then also, some people just had a bad time at the VA. I have a Vietnam friend that he had a bad encounter at the VA when he went to get seen medical, and he was just like, "I'm not doing this again." Never went back. Those is different things that can be added on there and goes to it, but that's stuff that people aren't aware of and don't know. And like I said, times have changed. Like Annette mentioned, like people didn't go to sick call in those days. So there's not going to be documentation if you weren't really going to sick call. It was frowned upon. You had to be strong. You couldn't get nothing notated. And then on the back end, it's just like now your body's paying for it because you didn't get that thing the same way. But now that's not an excuse now for the newer generations of veterans. It's just like you were able to go to sick call. It was just like, yeah, it may be frowned upon, but you can still go to sick call. You can still get your stuff notated. At the end of the day, you do your time in service. You do it proudly. You honor this country. But at the same time, you got to take care of yourself on the back end. And a lot of veterans just didn't do that. A lot of service members don't do that, where they don't take care of themselves because they think it's going to be okay. And then on the back end, your body does start deteriorating. It's just like, yeah, you can be fit now, you can start working, but all that rucking, all that stuff, it may not cause something right then and there. You can have back issues later on in life because of all that rucking. I was just like, you were rucking a lot then. Your body was still young. You were taking it. But then that heavy toll starts taking it when your body doesn't recuperate. It's fun. You see what I'm saying? So that happens. All right. So here are the three different types of claims. Look, there's veterans that get there 100% easy. There's veterans that don't get it easy. There's veterans that could have filed a long time ago. Veterans that can file now. It's just like, hey, it's never late to file for disability claims. It's just you got to make sure you doing it correctly, so it saves time and it saves you headaches. The better you are at filing it, the better you are at taking care of the stuff, the better it is for you and the easier it is to file if you're doing it the correct way. But yeah, it hurts a lot of veterans when they think about it. It's like, man, I could have just been having these benefits then. It is something like that, but it's just like, hey, getting this out there allows people to understand that. So supplemental claims. The first one that you can do. Claimant may file a supplemental claim using VA Form 20-0995, Decision Review Request Supplemental Claim, available at the VBA.pubs forms. Now, let me click on this. Oh, see, so you could just click on it and it'll just take you to the form, which is on, I believe I do have that on my website. If not, that's something I need to make sure to add. New evidence. So basically, claimants must be sure to identify or submit new and relevant evidence. New evidence means evidence not previously part of the actual record before agency adjudicators at the time of the prior decision. Relevant evidence means evidence that tends to prove or disprove a matter at issue and claim. Claimants may file supplemental claims at any time. However, filing the request within 1 year of the date of notice of the prior decision on the issue maintains potential entitlement to the earliest possible effective date. VA is able to grant the benefit. So basically, this is explaining to you that, hey, you have the ability within that full year to file a supplemental claim. Appreciate that, Extreme. You have the ability to file within a year and provide a supplemental claim. This is something that basically within that year, you have to file within 60 days saying that you plan an appeal. It was 30 before I filed and 49 years for him. We both file 100%, watch a lot of videos. You got to watch a lot of videos and you just ask the right questions and pay attention to the stuff. Like Jimmy, it takes time. Not everybody has the ability to have the documentation or the insurance to cover it or see private doctors and get nexus letters and stuff like that. It's a process. If you weren't able to take care of the stuff at the beginning part of your life, where you had to get the documentation and stuff like that, it is a process to fulfill getting to 100% on the back end because you have to do more work. The problem is you got to make sure people are doing the work, but doing the work correctly. If you do the work correctly and you fill out your documentation, get your paperwork and all that stuff correctly, you'll get to 100%. But if you're not doing it correctly and you file in here, you file in there, you're missing stuff there, you run into that problem where you don't have that information. And if you don't have that information, it's difficult. It is difficult. There's no way around that, where it's difficult to get these things done. It's difficult to get paperwork. It's difficult to do that, but it's just, you got to maintain, I wouldn't say composure, but you got to maintain the ability to keep doing what you need to do to get that. Because if you're not filing correctly, it doesn't matter. If you don't file correctly, you fall into this process right here, which is the supplemental claim, the higher level review, or the appeal. You fall into this. But at the same time, if you fall into this situation and you still not doing it the right way, it won't matter. If you filed an appeal, but you submitted the same information, didn't provide anything new, didn't provide a new buddy statement or a new DBQ or a new imagery or whatever the case, if it got denied before because they couldn't explain why, it's there. But remember, that document that they send you with the rating, it tells you why. Sometimes it'll say, oh, we found evidence, but we just couldn't connect it, which is always weird to me. But that's the stuff there. Oh, okay, y'all found evidence. So there is stuff in my record explaining this. So that means I have to go more in depth into what that evidence is. Got it. It was for this situation. You denied it for this, but you saw some evidence. All right, now let me find more evidence, whether that's that DBQ, that nexus letter. So watching from Louisiana. Appreciate you. If you find that information, you get that information, you get that there, and it's just there. It's just like, you know what? Okay, this makes sense. They said they found evidence, but they couldn't connect it. Okay, now let me find this documentation or get documentation that shows that it is service connected. Most of the time, it's that nexus letter. But if you have stuff in your file that maybe you just skipped over or you didn't look at in depth, because like I said, your medical record, you should be going line by line, page by page, and you shouldn't be skipping anything.
because you got to make sure you have everything there to supplement your claim. Make sure your documentation is good. Make sure your information is correct and it's on there, highlighted and put it there. Oh, see, look, you got 2 Louisiana people up in here. Okay, so higher level review. This is a different type of review, still part of the appeals process. So this is a different way of going about it. A claimant may request a higher level review using form 20-0996 decision review request, higher level review, with an HLR, an experienced VA adjudicator who did not participate in the prior decision, re-examines the same evidence used in the prior decision and decides the claim without considering that prior decision. The claimant and the representative may request one informal conference with the higher level review to identify any errors in law or fact VA made in the prior decision. So this is basically you talking. This is basically you filing, saying like, look, that last VA rater just didn't do a good job. The adjudicator, he didn't do a good job. He missed out on this. He missed out on that. This is there. This is there. But you got to remember, when you're doing this, make sure your shit is correct. Don't go and do a high level review and you don't have that information and you are not, it is not concrete in there showing like, hey, you got this, you did that, this happened, stuff like that. Once you have it that way, high level review shouldn't be that difficult. Because then it's like, look, I have this documentation here. This is there. That is shown there. I just need somebody else to get eyes on it. And that works sometimes. But if you want somebody to put eyes on the situation and you don't have the situation correct, you get denied again. Then you go through a different process. But basically says it's somebody that had nothing to do with the prior decision and they are looking it over because you're basically stating, or you can call and talk to them and just be like, hey, look, this is where there was an error. The VA said I didn't have this, but here's the documentation. And this is where you're doing your due diligence also, where it's just like, hey, here in my medical record, it is page this, or here in the document I submitted as evidence, it is on this page that it shows this is where it happened. This is what the time period it took place in, all that stuff. And you explain that to them and you can call them on that informal talk conference. You talk about it. And then from there, you give them something to make sure to view. Because it's like, hey, I got denied because of this back issue. It says I have favorable evidence, but here's the more evidence that I guess was overlooked. Here's when I got this injury. Shows it here. This is a date. Here's the time period of the physical therapy I got. This is from here to here. This is the other instance where I got seen on this. Or here's the medical profiles I attached to it showing that I had these back injuries and I had this problem and I got seen for it. You have that, higher level reviews are not that difficult. Now, you still got to wait for it to be done. So that still goes into that appeals process where it takes a longer time because there's a backlog of people getting either stuff wrong, VA raters not doing their job correctly, or sometimes the veteran not doing a good job of filing a claim, and now it's getting reviewed. If it's being reviewed and you got denied, you're missing out on something, or something is not right that they still denied you. So that's where you got to make sure you are doing your due diligence to make sure your documentation is straight, no issues. And that's what it is. So the claimant and it says it right there. And it says VA must receive the completed VA form within 1 year of the date of the notification letter of the prior decision. So remember, you have a year. You want to file it 60 days, within 60 days to say you appeal it, because otherwise they take it as like, hey, you didn't say anything within 60 days. You go with this. There's nothing wrong. But you have a whole year to fill it out. If you do it within that 60 days, like, hey, you're filing for an appeal. This is why. And now this is the last one. And then it says, check the decision letter for your initial claim for instructions on how to submit the form. Because basically, like I said, on that ratings, on that initial claims letter, so it will say if it was favorable evidence or, hey, we didn't find no evidence. Because then it makes it simpler for you to know what it is you have to do to get to that point. Do you have to get extensive documentation because there's no evidence? Or yes, there is evidence. Okay, this is what I need to do to highlight this evidence so that people can see that this evidence is what is needed to get me that service connection. And now we have the appeal to the Board of Veterans Appeal, which goes through the courts of appeals of veteran claims. A veteran or claimant may appeal directly to the board using VA Form 101A2 within 1 year of the date of the decision. Veterans or claimants appealing to the board may request a hearing with a veterans law judge and or have the opportunity to submit additional evidence. The board can also conduct a review without any additional evidence, which could result in a faster decision. This is where you submit it to, or you submit it by fax. A board decision under the modernized program also may be appealed to the U.S. Court of Appeals for veterans claims. And that's for the board. Legacy appeals. For VA decisions issued prior to February 19, 2019, under the legacy appeals process, a claimant had 1 year from the date of the notification of a VA decision to file an appeal by writing a written notice of disagreement with the VA department that made the decision. There are still some cases pending in the legacy appeal system. So there's still, imagine that, that was from before 2019. We are in 2025, y'all. So that says people are still dealing with legacy appeals from at least 2019. In the legacy appeal system, following the receipt of claimant's written notice, VA issues the claimant a statement of the case describing the facts, laws, and regulations used in deciding the case. To complete the request for appeal, the claimant must file a substantive appeal, VA Form 9, within 60 days of mailing of the SOC or within 1 year. Claimants with a pending legacy appeal can opt into the modernized appeal system when they receive an SOC or a supplemental statement of case. And that's the opt-in if you want to do it that way. The Board of Veteran Appeals. The board decides appeals on behalf of the Secretary of Veteran Affairs. Although it is not required, a VSO, an accredited agent, or attorney may represent a claimant. Appellants who wish to have a hearing may present their cases in person to a member of the board in Washington, D.C. at a VA regional office or by video conference. Decisions made by the board on your case can be filed by logging into va.gov. That's the Board of Veteran Appeals. You do that in person. U.S. Court of Appeals for veterans claims. A final board decision that does not grant a claimant the benefits desired may be appealed to the U.S. Court of Appeals for veterans claims. The court is an independent body, not part of the VA. Notice of an appeal must be received by the court with a postmark that is within 120 days after the board mailed its decision. The court reviews the record considered by the board. It does not hold trials or receive new evidence. Appellants may represent themselves before the court or have lawyers or approved agents as representatives. That's basically, if you need to go through that and you're going through a lawyer and it's that severe of a thing that you have to, some cases you need to do that. Some cases you don't. Some cases it's just like simple mistakes or something got overlooked, or maybe you forgot to put in that piece of evidence or something like that, and you can put that as a supplemental claim. So there's a different ways of doing it. It's just depending. It's a case-by-case basis as to what the issues are. Was it the VA messed up? Was it you didn't provide enough information? Or you just need to appeal this to the highest level because it's just like, look, this needs to be looked into for this reason. Then we have the correcting of military records, which I have a little short on there also, and it provides it. So the Secretary of a military department acting through a board for correction of military records has the authority to change any military record when necessary to correct an error or remove an injustice. A correction board may consider applications for correction of a military record, including a review of discharge issued by a court-martial. All branches of the military consider you to have a strong case for a discharge upgrade if you can show your discharge was connected to any of these categories. So this is for people that might have gotten removed off of that. Mental health conditions, including PTSD, TBIs, MST, and including don't ask, don't tell policies. So that can be changed for it, because remember, back in those days during the don't ask, don't tell, I don't think you got an honorable for getting out at that point. So that took away benefits from some people. So that's something to pay in mind too there. Review of discharge from military service. So this is each of the military services maintains a discharge review board with authority to change, correct, or modify discharges or dismissals not issued by a sentence of a general court martial. The board has no authority to address medical discharges. If the veteran is deceased or incompetent, the surviving spouse, next of kin, or legal representative, they may apply for a review of discharge by writing the military department concerned using DD Form 293, the application for review of discharge from the armed forces there. So basically, each service branch has their own discharge capabilities, and they have their own records review. So you would have to send it through them, because then they would go through your documents and you would show your evidence as to why this needs to be changed. And if they agree with that, then they would change your record. So that's reviewing of that. Physical Disability Board of Review. Veterans separated due to disability from September 11th, 2001 through December 31st of 2009 with a combined rating of 20% or less as determined by the respective branch of service Physical Evaluation Board and not found eligible for retirement may be eligible for a review by the Physical Disability Board of Review. The PBO was established to reassess the accuracy and fairness of certain PBE decisions and, where appropriate, recommend the correction of discrepancies and errors. A PDBR review will not lower the disability rating previously assigned by the PEB, and any correction may be made retroactively to the day of the original disability separation. As a result of the request for review by the PDBR, no further relief from the Board of Correction of Military Records may be sought, and a recommendation by the PDBR, once accepted by the respective branch of service, is final. So this is basically you being able to have your med board, I guess, reviewed. I didn't know that was in existence. But it just says the veteran separated due to disability from September 11, 2001 through December 31st, 2009 with a combined rating of 20% or less can have it reviewed. Because remember, you need that 30% to be found eligible for that retirement pay also. Here we have now we're going to step into the burial and memorial benefits. VA operates 155 national cemeteries, of which more than 95 are open to interments of either casket or cremains. Burial options are limited to those available at a specific cemetery and may include in-ground casket or interment of cremated remains in a columbarium in-ground or in a scattering area. So depending on how you want to lay your service member to rest, that basically depends on that. VA National Cemeteries, it breaks down this is the eligibility. So members of reserve components of the armed forces who die on active duty or on training were eligible for retired pay, or were called to active duty and served the full term of service for which they were called may also be eligible for burial. And it says veterans married to veterans are entitled to their own adjacent grave sites if they choose. Certain exceptions: eligibility for burial based on active duty service must have been for a minimum of 24 consecutive months, beginning after September 1980 or after October 1981 for officers. That's for there. VA may bar eligible individuals from receiving burial and memorial benefits if they are convicted of a federal or state capital crime, or a federal or state crime that caused the person to be a Tier 3 sex offender, or if the individual committed such an offense but was not convicted of such crime because the person was not available for trial due to death or flight to avoid prosecution. Surviving spouses of veterans who died on 1st January of 2000 do not lose eligibility for burial in a national cemetery if they remarry. Then it just keeps on breaking it down, and it gives you that information where you can click here. For more information about the appeals process, contact for that, and that's appealing the burial issue. Pre-need burial eligibility determination. VA implemented a pre-need burial eligibility determination program to assist individuals interested in determining their eligibility for a burial in a VA national cemetery. So if you want to get buried in a VA national cemetery, there is an application for it, and you have to go, and they have to have the space in your location. Remember, there's 155 across the country, so your state will most likely have maybe 1 to 2 VA cemeteries, or they might just have one large one, depending on where it is, what your state is. And those are basically, if you would like to get buried there, you can. Headstones and markers. VA is authorized to furnish, upon request, an inscribed headstone or marker for the unmarked grave of an eligible descendant at any national, state veterans, tribal, or private cemetery. VA will deliver a headstone or marker at no cost anywhere in the world. For Medal of Honor recipients, VA is authorized to provide a supplemental headstone or marker if the recipient served in the armed forces on or after April 6, 1917, and is eligible for a headstone or marker. Individuals of date of death, even if the grave is already marked with a private headstone or marker. So this is more like a breakdown of what you can put on there, but you have the headstones and the markers, and it gives you a breakdown of what you can put on there. As spouses, dependent children are eligible to have inscriptions. Those who may apply for burial headstones and markers include descendants of the spouse or individual in a legal union, descendant, child, parent, or sibling, any lineal or collateral descendant of the descendant, personal representative from a VA individual employed by state or local government responsible for serving veteran, individual with legal responsibility for the disposition of the unclaimed remains of the descendant or other matters related to interment or memorialization, anyone if the descendant's dates of service ended prior to 1917. Then it's the same thing with the memorial markers. VA provides memorial headstones and markers for placement in a national cemetery, a veteran cemetery owned by a state, or in the case of a veteran, in a state, tribal, local, or private cemetery with "in memory of" as the first line of inscription for those whose remains are unavailable for burial. Then it has that to submit a claim. It gives you the form for the headstone, because if you go here, it's going to take you to the va.gov, which is the annoying part. So it's going to take you here. It's not even going to take you directly to the form. So now when you go into here, you have to place the form in there and then put 40-1330 for you to get claimed for standard government headstone or marker. So that's why I say with that, these are forms that I'm going to try to make sure they're in the website so that you don't have to worry about it. Because the thing is right now, if you didn't know what you were typing, you wouldn't be able to get to that info. So that's one of the things there. That's why it's always important to know that, just like the information of it, because the VA forms, they're there, but you need to know that what the VA form is. If you don't know what the VA form is, it becomes difficult, because then it's just like you have no way of answering or facilitating or assisting yourself because of the fact that you don't have that document number. So you don't know what it is you're searching for, because the VA doesn't have va.gov does not have a full directory where it's just a listing of it, like how it did with the DOD forms. This one is like, you need to know what you're asking for to ask for it. And then from there, they'll provide you that document. Medallion in lieu of government headstone or marker for private cemeteries. Different criteria for the medallion of the government. For other memorialization, you have the presidential memorial certificates, and you go through that. If you have a burial flags, for burial flags, VA will furnish a U.S. burial flag to recognize deceased veterans who receive other than dishonorable discharge. This includes certain persons who served in the organized military forces of the Commonwealth of the Philippines while in service of the U.S. Armed Forces, and who died on or after April 25th, 1951. Also eligible for a burial flag are veterans who are entitled to retired pay for service in the reserves or National Guard, or would have been entitled if over age 60. The members or former members of the selected reserve who served their initial obligation or were discharged from a disability incurred or aggravated in the line of duty or died while serving of the selected reserves. That's for burial flags. Then it has a link here. You can go to the link and it gives you that for more information. You got service-connected burial allowance. VA will pay a burial and funeral allowance up to $2,000 if the veteran's death is service-connected. Such cases, the person who bore the veteran's burial expenses may claim reimbursement from the VA. There's no time limit for filing reimbursement claims in service-connected death cases. Gives you the form. But remember, if it is a death caused by service-connected issue, that means that on the death certificate, it states the service-connected issue. You cannot have You will not receive a service connected issue if you can't show it's a service connected issue. See what I'm saying? So you got to make sure that it's highlighting that and it's showing that information. Non-service connected burial allowance. VA will pay a burial allowance of up to $948 for veterans who, at the time of death from non-service connected injuries, were entitled to receive pension or compensation, or would have been entitled if they were not receiving military retirement pay. Plot allowance. VA will pay a plot allowance up to $948 when a veteran is buried in a cemetery not under U.S. government jurisdiction. So this is if the veteran was discharged from active duty because of disability incurred or aggravated in the line of duty. This is mostly like med boards. The veteran was receiving compensation or pension, or would have been if the veteran was not receiving military retirement pay, and the veteran died in a VA facility. Here's the form for that. Same thing as the top one, the burial application for burial benefits. So once you fill that out, it'll give you the rest of the information. We have our transportation benefit. Some cases, VA would pay the cost of transporting the remains of a veteran from the place of death to the place of burial if the veteran died while hospitalized by the VA or other facility listed in 38 CFR 3.1706. The veteran's remains are unclaimed or at the time of death. The veteran was in receipt of disability compensation or military retired pay in lieu of disability compensation. So that's there. Other burial receptacle allowances. VA will pay monetary allowance for an outer burial receptacle for an internment in a VA national cemetery where a privately purchased outer burial receptacle, grave liner, burial vault, or other similar container for a casket has been used in lieu of a government furnished grave liner. The allowance amount changes each year based on average cost and was $411 for burials that occurred in the calendar year of 2024. So that'll be updated for 2025. They don't specify when that is. The Veterans Legacy Memorial, the website has a specific website, is the nation's first digital platform dedicated to the memory of nearly 10 million veterans interned in VA's national cemeteries. There's a lot of us in there. And it explains that, gives you the link to it. Then we also go to the veteran cemeteries administered by other agencies. So the Department of Army administers Arlington National Cemetery and other Army installation cemeteries. Eligibility is generally more restrictive than a VA National Cemetery. So this is basically for those military installations that have a cemetery in place. So if you want to try to get buried in a installation cemetery, you would have to go through there, but the eligibility is different. State and tribal veteran cemeteries, there are currently 122 VA grant-funded veteran cemeteries operating in 47 states, tribal organizations, and 3 U.S. territories that offer burial options for veterans and their families. And then you have the unclaimed veteran remains. Unclaimed veterans occur when veterans pass away and are not claimed by relatives, friends, and or a legal representative. In addition to burial in a VA national, VA-funded state, territorial, or tribal veteran cemetery and a government headstone or marker, there are monetary benefits associated with burial of unclaimed veteran remains. These monetary benefits include reimbursement for the cost of the casket or urn used for burial, reimbursement for transportation to a national, state, or tribal veteran cemetery, and a burial allowance and plot allowance. Applicants must submit VA Form 40-10088, which is the request for reimbursement for the casket or urn, and that is through the VA that you would file that out. So, we're closing in on the end of the workshop. We're going a bit past 2 hours. I just want to finish this because there's a couple of pages left. And next week, what we're going to do is we're going to go over the CFR using the code. That's going to be, I think, the next couple of workshops. It's going to be how to use the CFR, going through the CFR. And we'll make specific videos off of that, but that's going to be next week. Just going through the CFR because most veterans don't know what a CFR is. They don't know where their ratings are. They don't know where their numbers are. So that's something that I think it's another benefit. And what we'll be doing for the next couple of workshops is going through that. I wouldn't say maybe go through every diagnostic code, but literally going down the list and explaining the different things of that so that people understand what it is they're claiming, what they can file for, and stuff like that. Additional benefits: veterans and survivors need fiduciary services. There. Um, we have the VA benefits for veterans living overseas. So this is one that a lot of veterans tend to move overseas because they start receiving their disability pay, and it's cheaper to live overseas and pay for the stuff that way. So they go about it that way. So for this one is a VA monetary benefits, including disability compensation, pension, educational benefits, burial allowances. Some programs are restricted. Home loan guarantees are only available in the U.S. U.S. educational benefits are limited to approved degree granting programs and institutions of higher learning. So you have to check that with the VA if you're doing it overseas. Beneficiaries living in foreign countries should contact the nearest American embassy or consulate for help. Basically saying like, hey, you need to verify through the VA in order to get some of these benefits overseas. You got to verify through the VA that it's okay. They understand you're going to this school, or they understand doctors. When it comes to that, the doctor issue is also something you got to check to see if they are going to pay for it ahead of time, or you have to send them the bill after you pay for it to get reimbursed. That's something you need to work out also. For incarcerated veterans, VA service-connected disability compensation benefits are affected if a veteran is convicted of a felony and incarcerated for more than 60 days. VA pension benefits are affected if a veteran or beneficiary is convicted of a felony or misdemeanor and incarcerated for more than 60 days. Disability compensation paid to incarcerated veteran rated 20% or more disabled is limited to the 10% rate. For a veteran whose disability rating is 10%, the payment is reduced to half of the rate payable to a veteran evaluated as 10% disabled. So basically, you're still going to get paid as a disabled veteran, but if you are rated 20% or more, you're getting paid at the 10% now anymore. So if you were at 100%, you go to 10%. If you're at 10%, they give you half of that. And I think that 10% is like $176 or something like that. So you may be earning like 80 something now off of that. So payments are now reduced for participants in work release programs, residing in halfway houses, or under community control. Disability, death, or surviving pension paid to a veteran or beneficiary incarcerated following conviction of a felony or misdemeanor must be discontinued. Benefits not paid to a veteran or surviving spouse while incarcerated may be proportioned to eligible dependents. Failure to notify a VA or veteran beneficiary incarceration can result in overpayment of benefits and a subsequent loss of all VA financial benefits until the overpayment is recovered. Basically saying if you get paid all those thousands of dollars, they're going to expect all those thousands of dollars back before you can keep on using the benefits you were getting. So VA benefits will not be provided to any veteran, survivor, or dependent wanted for an outstanding felony warrant. Failure to notify VA or beneficiary incarceration can result in overpayment. Same thing explaining. You get overpaid, they're going to want their money back. Healthcare for Reentry Veterans Program. The HCRV program is designed to address the needs of incarcerated veterans when reentering their community. Self-explanatory. The Veterans Justice Outreach Program. The purpose of the Veterans Justice Outreach Program is to prevent homelessness and avoid the unnecessary criminalization of mental illness and extended incarceration among veterans. This is accomplished by ensuring that eligible justice-involved veterans encountered by police and in jails or courts have timely access to VHA mental health, substance abuse, and homeless services when clinically indicated, and other VA services and benefits are appropriate. So that's also self-explanatory when it comes to the outreach program. Basically assisting veterans once they are out of incarceration to make sure they don't become homeless or they don't go through the mental illness issue that may happen there. Service members transitioning from the military. VA has personnel assigned to major military hospitals and DoD installations to help wounded, ill, and injured service members transitioning from military to civilian life. VA liaisons for healthcare are available at every military installation and provide individualized assistance connecting to VA healthcare. I don't recall having that in Germany. Maybe it's new. Maybe it got implemented, but I don't recall having that in Germany when I was getting out. Vow to Hire Heroes Act. The act made the Transition Assistance Program, TAP, including attendance at VA benefit briefings, mandatory for most service members transitioning to civilian status. Upgraded career counseling options, focused TAP more heavily on job hunting skills, and tailor the program for the 21st century job market. So the TAP program is there, but it doesn't inclusively provide all this information. It's little sugarcoating of giving you this information so that you know what's going on, but there's still a lot of stuff that doesn't go enough in depth to actually help veterans on the long run. Like, yes, helping with your job hunting skills or writing a resume, developing a resume, but it's also explaining to veterans is just like what you have done transitions to civilian life. Not everything is going to transfer over, but when you were a squad leader, when you were a platoon sergeant, when you were a master driver or the arms room trainer or in charge of training, or you did training, those are things that you can put as part of your resume that, hey, you conducted training for this amount of people on this subject. If you were the arms room, you dealt with all the weapons. You had to show people how to make sure they were clean, stuff like that. That's stuff that you can still do because you are using your leadership capabilities to educate other people, which is something you can put on the stuff. There's certain stuff that you can put on there that assists that most people don't know of and don't use, but and here it goes. The Transition Assistance Program is an interagency program designed to provide service members with benefits and service information to ease their transition from military to civilian life. The program is supported by the DoD, DOL, DOE, the VA, DHS, and the Small Business Administration and Office of Personnel Management. Remember, all those things are going through changes right now, so we don't know. We'll see how that plays out when it comes to this. Most of this stuff is still going to be there. It's just how well and what changes are coming from it. Service members separates must participate in TAP no later than 1 year prior to separation or retirement. The TAP curriculum provides the skill building, resources, and tools service members need to achieve emotional health, physical health, and economic stability in civilian life. Like I said, you have the TAP version, you have this, you have all that training. It just needs to be better done. Gives you the TAP events courses and the benefits transition page there also. Women's health transitioning training. Women's health transitioning training gives you as part of the events that they have. The In Transition program, free voluntary program with coaches who provide psychological healthcare support to service members. Another one there that can be used. This is while you're outgoing. Pre-separation counseling through military service. Another one that's beneficial to veterans or to soon to be veterans. Verification of military experience and training. The VMET, this is basically you getting all that training and all that documentation and putting it together so that you start consolidating it, figuring out what you did, highlighting what you did, and placing that as part of your resume, and then typing it up, restructuring it so that it goes into more civilian terms and not just military terms, but it gives you that explanation of what you did, what you were able to accomplish, and what you managed, so that when you're going to a job, you can explain that and have that written in documentation and show that. Veterans Workforce Investment Program recently separated veterans and those with service-connected disabilities, significant barriers to employment, or who served on active duty during a period in which a campaign or expedition badge was authorized, can contact the nearest state employment office for employment help through the Veterans Workforce Investment Program. So this is basically a separate program compared to the VRE. So this is something that you can have your state employment office help you, like, hey, I'm a veteran, I want to get into the workforce. I need this assistance there. Veterans Employment Services, VA's Veteran and Military Spouse Talent Engagement Program, provides guidance and assistance to veterans and military spouses seeking employment in the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs. So like I said, these are programs that are available to your spouse to be able to work at the VA. So not necessarily you can be serving, you can be active duty, and then you can have your spouse working through the VA, which gives you a heads up on all the stuff while you're doing your service. You have somebody that's learning the system, knows how it is, knows the ins and outs of it, knows what's best for you to file, how to file it and stuff like that, and you learn from it, and it's beneficial to you. That has the website also. It also has a Facebook page for people to check out. State Employment Services, you got to ask your state. It goes careers employment, but you have to ask your state. Your state employment office, That is going to give you the best criteria and the best information for you to use. Unemployment compensation, self-explanatory. Veterans' preference for federal jobs, we already know how this works when it comes to, since the time of Civil War, veterans of the armed forces have been given some degree of preference in appointments to federal jobs. Self-explanatory. Veterans recruitment appointment. Veterans recruitment appointment allows federal agencies to appoint eligible veterans to jobs without competition. So basically, this is like a direct hire thing for veterans. Give me 1 second. I need to check something out. Give me a second. I'm just looking at this because I want to see how much. Oh, these pages blank? What the hell's going on here? Yeah, because it doesn't go that much further because we're almost. I'm just double checking because I'm looking at the last couple of pages and the last couple of pages are pretty empty. So, well, these are the last couple of pages. So, okay, we'll do that. Veterans recruitment appointment. We have that. That's just basically like a direct hire for veterans. Small Business Administration certifies service disabled veteran owned and veteran owned firms seeking to do business with VA's Veterans First Contracting Program. For additional information, the SBA. This is basically a program that allows you to get, if you have, let's say, you're veteran owned, you can apply for veteran contracts or contracts through the government for you to supply something. Like if you're supplying a certain thing and you want to try to get in on that, if you provide, let's say, like a financial service class, you may be put into ACE or you may be put into Military One Source. If you want to provide that service and you have your documentation, you have all that, you can apply to try to become part of the contract and you can provide classes at a specific location and stuff like that. So it's different things, but it's also a program that it helps assist with veterans trying to develop their own business. The same way you can use that with the VRE, which is the self-employment track or business track. You can use that and gain more information through there also. The Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, provides funding to states to help low income households with their heating and home energy costs under LIHEAP, I guess you could say. Can also assist with insulating homes to make them more energy efficient and reduce energy costs. The program in each community determines if your household's income qualifies for the program. To find out more, hey, if you have heating costs and stuff like that, this is something that definitely is a win no matter what. If the VA is willing to assist you with your heating costs, lowering, insulating the home, or better insulating the home, you need to look into that because that can be a very positive thing when it comes to energy cost. And hey, if you're able to do this and your house is being re-insulated, that's a win. That costs money, but if the VA is willing to do it, hey. And Achieving a Better Life Experience Act, or ABLE, became law on December 19th of 2014. The law aims to ease financial strains faced by individuals with disabilities by making tax-free savings accounts available to cover qualified disability expenses. Excuse me. The designated beneficiary of an ABLE account is the eligible individual who owns the ABLE account. They must be eligible for SSI based on disability or blindness that began before age 26, entitled to disability insurance benefits, childhood disability benefits, or disabled widows or widowers benefits based on disability or blindness that began before age 26, or someone who has certified or whose parent or guardian has certified that they have met the criteria for disability certification before age 26. And that's for the ABLE account to have a savings account on that created through that program. Basically, which just takes care of disability expenses. So that covers, we ain't got nothing else here. Just got the last page. Champ VA. So this is a Choose VA, which is part of the Department of Veteran Affairs. The federal benefits for veterans, dependents, survivors, and caregivers. Pamphlet number is 80-25-1. I'll make sure to put that in the link of the description, but that covers the 2025 federal benefits in its entirety, I guess. So that will be what we cover, what we covered basically the past couple of weeks. That's what we've been working on, is just to make sure that veterans are understanding and aware of what the federal benefits are that are available to them. Now, like I said, just keep in mind we have a new VA secretary, we have a new administration, we have Doge going through and trying to make everything more efficient. So remember, there may be cuts to certain programs, there may be additions to certain programs. There may be cuts in different areas and they may just bring it more to the VA, or they might take certain specifics from the VA, cut certain parts and add to others, but keep it within the budget. Keep that in mind. These are just the benefits there. Once implemented and changes are happening, I can assure you this is going to be updated. But for now, this is something that these are the federal benefits. But like I said, you have to make sure that you are paying attention to your federal benefits. Also keep in mind your state's benefits. Your state's benefits are also a big portion of what you have available, whether it comes to educational benefits, whether it's your spouse going to school or you going to school for free, whether it's the DIC payments in case you pass away, your family is taken care of with that as long as it's a service connected issue. The VRE program, which is basically veteran readiness and employment, for you to have those 5 different tracks and go over it and either get a degree, get help working on it, get help being self-employed, get help getting or starting a business. Those are things that are there that have been there and are available to you. Using the VA home loan if you're trying to purchase a home or you're trying to get into real estate where you buy a multi-home or 4-unit home, condo, or whatever the case may be, that's within VA loan eligibility and requirements, like county requirements, which they have a listing and shows how much you're able to get guaranteed through the VA depending on that. So those are the things that you need to pay attention to, because those are, like I said, those are different things. Those are benefits that are here. And just like a rundown of it is just like very simple. You have healthcare benefits that are on the federal level. You have non-healthcare veterans benefits. You got the veteran readiness and employment. You got the pension program. You got education and training. You got home loans. You got life insurance. You got reemployment rights. You got homeless assistance and prevention. You have the family members and survivors benefits. These are all benefits that are available to all veterans, as long as, honorably discharged and stuff like that. But these are benefits that are there at the federal level that are there for all veterans. As long as you fit the description of a veteran and you were honorably discharged or other than honorable and nothing was negative, you basically are available to have all these different benefits. Certain benefits you need a certain criteria, like for the VRE, you at least have to be 10%, which if you have, I believe it's like 2 that are at 0, they might still get you up and bump you up to 10% because you basically have 2 service connected issues and you're not being compensated, but you may get compensated at the 10% mark. But from there, VRE, you have your GI Bill. You can use your GI Bill. You get your loans deferred if you're at 100% PNT. You go to school, take loans out, reuse it again, then get all your loans deferred, then use the GI Bill, or then use the VRE program. There's different ways and different benefits that are available to you that you can use in multiple manners, which can assist you with becoming more independent, allowing you to have a financial backing and having a financial just like a financial criteria that allows you to know, like, hey, I am taken care of, I have these benefits I can use, and my family is taken care of, and some of these benefits they'll be able to enjoy even after I pass. That's a very life-changing thing. And it's, hey, we served our country, we made our sacrifices for our country. It's a benefit that we've earned, and it's a benefit we have to make sure we are taking advantage of. But yeah, that'll cover this week's workshop, just the overall coverage of our 2025 federal benefits. like I said, I appreciate everybody that tunes in. Appreciate you stopping by, making statements, asking questions. This is all just to make sure veterans are more aware and are getting their understanding. I know everybody's going to start getting ready for the Super Bowl in a couple of hours. So make sure y'all are safe, have a good time, enjoy the game, enjoy it with friends, family, whoever you're enjoying it with. Um, be safe. If you're gonna drink, make sure you are not driving. Make sure you have a plan. Make sure you're okay to enjoy the stuff. Some places have like late work calls. I know they do that in the military sometimes, where they give you a late work call. I don't know if they still do it. It was like that in Germany because we were watching it at like 2 or 3 in the morning and then had PT the next morning. So they usually gave us a little late work call, but not always. But as always, we try to educate people here. We guide you to the benefits you've earned. Jimmy, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Like I said, if y'all have questions or if you have other veterans and stuff like that, send them over here. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to tune in. We do this every Sunday, 12 noon. Most of the time it's just a 2-hour thing, but I wanted to make sure to finish these benefits so we can start on another topic next week, which would be the CFR. And I just wanted to do that. So we went over the 2-hour mark, but that's usually what we're doing, is just trying to keep it between 2 hours, below 2 hours, at least up to 2 hours. So that way we do it. Thank you, Annette, and thank you for being a member of the channel also. Dallas, you're welcome. Appreciate it. It's assisting. Yeah. I'm glad it's able to assist people. And like I said, if you have more veterans or know, even like I said, even for active duty service members, they can come in and tune in. If you know people that have kids that served, it's beneficial for them to tune in and ask questions now so that they are better prepared on their way out and have this information instead of having the issue where we are playing catch up, which is what we're doing with a lot of veterans right now, is trying to catch them up to what they've earned and getting them those benefits. So the more we can do that, the better off veterans are doing it, the more we're using these yeah. And that's why I say, and that's why I just like this. It's important to get this out because this is an information that it's there. It's just nobody hears about it, nobody knows about it, and older generations, unfortunately, are suffering because of the fact that they didn't have this availability like it is now. The newer generation is going to suffer the same way if they don't pay attention to it and don't look into it, and they decide, you know what, I'm getting out, I ain't dealing with it. If something hurts down the road, I do it, and then they fall into the same system. So it's just breaking that cycle and trying to make it so that we are better aware, better taken care of, and we all know how the military works with the budget. If the budget is there, spend it. If you don't spend it, it gets reduced. So with veterans, hey, if we are using these resources and using these benefits, they're not going to try to take them away because veterans are taking and using them. So the money is being used in the correct manner. But if us as veterans are not taking advantage of these benefits and are not using these benefits or not gaining anything from it, there's no reason to have these benefits. So it's like, as veterans, we need to make sure we are passing this information along so that all veterans are incorporated and understand, like, hey, this is the documentation you need. This is the benefit you have. Use this benefit, or tell of another veteran that, hey, this might be beneficial for you. Hey, you can use the VRE program. Hey, you get a stipend since you're 100% for your dependents. Hey, you can use the VA loan. Hey, you might be going through some crisis or something, and hey, you have a homeless program just to make sure you don't become. All these things are beneficial for veterans to know, but the thing is the VA can create all these programs. If we are not using these programs, the VA starts looking at it as just like, hey, we don't need this. So us as veterans, we need to make sure we start using all of these and start spreading the word so that the VA, the government, everybody realizes, like, you know what? These people need better health care. We start using the health care. They can't say, no, we don't use it. We need the budget for it. It has the numbers showing that people are using it. Let's get them more healthcare that way. But if we got 19 million veterans out there right now and only 8 million of us are using the healthcare, it's like, you know what? It's necessary, but it's not that necessary. So then it makes it think, it was just like, more than half of these people don't even use the benefits that are there for them. It's kind of hard for me to increase a budget for something that half of the people don't even use. See what I'm saying? But hey, everybody uses the GI Bill. You never hear about them trying to take that one away because that's a very big benefit. But the VRE program offers the same exact thing just for job placement. Most people don't use it. Most people don't know about it. That's the stuff that is just like, hey, let's keep doing these. Let's keep pushing this information out. Let's get it to veterans so veterans understand. We need to use all of these benefits. We have to start using them. We have to start taking advantage of them. It's not only that you get disability compensation. Disability compensation is great. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't stop there. The amount of additional benefits, additional programs, additional companies, corporations, and stuff that they offer, scholarships, grants, business grants, stuff like that. All that information and all that benefit is there, and it's not being used. So if you have all these benefits and all this stuff that you can use, imagine how much further you can accomplish or prepare the next generation of your family with all these benefits. Got to start using them, y'all. That's the biggest thing. As veterans, we need to start using these benefits because if we're not using them, it looks like we don't need them. It's easy to cut a program that nobody's using. It's not easy to cut a program that everybody is using. So that's something we got to keep in mind when it comes to that. Let's start using these things, putting them together, figure it out. Yeah, that's all I got. Y'all, I appreciate everyone tuning in. Thank you to everybody that's here. I'm glad this helps and assists veterans and gives them information that they may not have known. We'll keep on doing these every Sunday, 12 noon. And that's all I got. Enjoy y'all Sunday. Enjoy y'all rest of y'all weekend. Make sure y'all get your Valentine's Day prepared and stuff like that so you have it ahead of time. Don't wait for the last minute. Do it today. After you get off of this, go do your shopping now so you have your gift ready if need be. Don't wait till Friday because Friday is the 14th. So don't do that. That's it's not gonna end well. Yeah. So let's leave it like that. But as always, I appreciate y'all. Yeah, be good to one another. Look out for one another. Well, be good to one another. Take care of one another. Look out for one another and love one another and stay marvelous while doing all of those at the same time. I'm Just Cruz. I appreciate y'all. This has been a Veteran Awareness Project workshop covering federal benefits, entitlements for veterans, service members, spouses, dependents, caregivers. As always, appreciate y'all. We will tune in and see you next Sunday. If not, we'll see you throughout the week. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Just Cruz, signing out. Peace.